Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto had the ice and crystal release in Chunin exam part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. I can't stop now, I need to put up a barrier. Minato Namikaze thought while panting before quickly going through hand signs, not believing how badly things had turned out in just one night. The night that was supposed to be one of the happiest nights of his life, along with his wife, Kushina Uzumaki, with it being the night their son Naruto would be born. Both of them having planned for everything in preparation for Kushina's due date. Having done so due to her being the Jinchuriki of the Kikbi no Imko, requiring preparations for when she gave birth. Even when female Jinchuriki gave birth, the seal keeping their Bijk restrained would be weakened, giving the Bijk a chance to escape, leading them to find a secure location outside of Konoha where Kushina could give birth, while Minato ensured her seal stayed strong and kept the Kikbi from escaping. Along with having a team of Anbu guarding the location just in case anyone tried interfering. While they had Bawako Sarutobi, the wife of the Sandaime Hokage, and Taji, Bawako's disciple, as well as a medic nin and member of the Anbu Black Ops, as the midwives. With everything thankfully going smoothly, though Minato had been worried with the pain Kushina was in during the birthing. Before the two were overjoyed when it ended and they were able to get their first look at their newborn son. Though Minato and Kushina had been confused to see Naruto had spiky black hair instead of blonde or red. Bawako having suggested recessive genes from Minato's side, since blonde hair was a rare color in the elemental nations, especially his own unique shade. They also saw he had whiskers as well, which they guessed was due to being exposed to the Kikbi's chakra in Kushina. Unfortunately, before they could enjoy the moment of being a family, a masked man had arrived, killing Bawako and Taji, along with the Anbu guarding the cave. With him then taking Naruto hostage, forcing Minato to act quickly to save his son, but leaving Kushina to be taken in the process. Before the masked man then extracted the Kikbi from Kushina and placed it under his control with a Sharingan. Luckily, Minato was able to arrive in time to save Kushina from being killed, taking her to where he left Naruto, before going off to confront the masked man and deal with the Kikbi. The Yondaime arriving in time to teleport a tailed beast bomb away before it could destroy the village, only to be forced to fight the masked man when he attacked. With Minato having theorized that he was really Madara Uchiha due to him having the Sharingan, as well as being capable of controlling the Kikbi and the power he possessed, something the masked man didn't deny or agree with. Before the two fought, which came down to who could land a hit faster, something that Minato succeeded in. Not only managing to mark him with his Horatian formula, but place a contract seal on the masked man breaking his hold over the Kikbi. Only for the masked man to escape, swearing that he'd return one day for the Kikbi, leaving Minato to return and stop the Kikbi from destroying Konoha. Arriving to see the Sandaime knocking the Kikbi out of the village walls with his adamantine staff. With Minato then summoning Gamabunta on top of the Kikbi before teleporting it far away. Leading to the current moment of Minato standing in front of the Kikbi along with Kushina and Naruto, having grabbed them after teleporting the Kikbi. The yellow flash knowing what he needed to do, but first had to make sure the Kikbi didn't try escaping and no one else interfered. Damn. I'm running low on chakra, if I put up a barrier, I might not have enough to seal the Kikbi away. Minato thought, knowing he's already tired from fighting the masked man and then teleporting the Kikbi. Something that Kushina noticed, seeing how tired her husband was getting before she started gathering whatever strength and chakra she still had left. Minato, I can still do this, said Kushina before grunting as she released her adamantine sealing chains from her back, having them dig into the ground before shooting up into the air. The Kikbi roaring in anger as the chains that kept it bound before were doing so again, with Kushina tightening the chains around the fox while having the rest form a barrier around them. The Uzumaki matriarch panting in exhaustion, not sure how long she'd be able to keep her chains out. Even with her powerful life force thanks to her Uzumaki heritage, she'll still die from having the Kikbi extracted. Kushina, Minato said in worry, knowing she shouldn't be using her remaining strength, before the two heard Naruto start to cry, making Kushina look at her son tiredly. Did I wake you? Sorry Naruto, said Kushina while smiling weakly at her baby, before turning to Minato. Minato seal the Kikbi back into me, I can take it down with me, so at least its return will be delayed. At least I can do one last good thing in the end and make sure Naruto grows up safely. Kushina said, wanting to take the Kikbi down with her when she dies, much to Minato's shock that she'd want to take the fox down with her. Kushina, it's because of you, I'm the Yondaime Hokage. You made me the man I am, today. And you made me Naruto's Tusan. And yet said Minato, hating that he couldn't save his family, that the best he could do is make sure Naruto had the power to stop the masked man when the time came. Minato, don't give me that look. I'm happy that you loved me. And that today is Naruto's birthday. Kushina said, smiling at their son, knowing this was the best gift she could give him, the chance to grow up safe and happy. If I were to imagine me alive and our future together, the three of us as a family, I can't see us having anything but a happy life. If I were allowed just one regret, it's that I won't be able to see Naruto grow up. I wish I could have seen that," said Kushina, imagining watching Naruto grow up, becoming the amazing ninja she knew he'd become. With Minato looking at her with tears in his eyes before wiping them away, knowing what he had to do to make sure Naruto was ready. And to make sure that both of them had a chance to meet Naruto, no matter how long it took. "Kushina, there's no need for you to die with the Kikbi. Preserve what little chakra you have left for a reunion with Naruto. I'll seal all of your remaining chakra inside Naruto," Minato said, making Kushina look at him in surprise. "It'll be part of the 8 trigram seal, then I'll take the Kikbi with me with the only genjutsu I can do since I'm not a Jinchuriki, the dead demon consuming seal," revealed Minato, much to the Riteid's horror he'd use the jutsu. "The dead demon consuming seal, but whoever uses the jutsu," Kushina said, knowing anyone who used that would die. "And one more thing. I'll only seal half of the Kikbi within myself. Sealing a power that immense is physically impossible, it's also strategically unwise. If you take the Kikbi and seal it within you when you die, there won't be a Jinchuriki around when it re-emerges, it will upset the balance between the Bijk. The dead demon consuming seal will seal half the Kikbi in me forever, and the other half I'll seal it inside Naruto with the 8 trigram seal," Minato said, looking down at Naruto, with Kushina looking at him in shock. He'd want to make their son a Jinchuriki. "I know what you want to say, but remember what Jiraiya-sensei said about a crisis in the future and the calamities that would follow. 2 things were confirmed for me today, that masked man who attacked you is the one who will bring about this crisis, and the one who will stop him is Naruto. I don't know why, but I'm convinced of this," said Minato, believing Naruto was the child of prophecy, that he'd be the one to stop the masked man. "But Minato," Kushina said, not wanting him to go through with making Naruto a Jinchuriki, not wanting her son to go through what she did. Only for Minato to set Naruto down and began going through hand signs, ending with clapping his hands together. "Dead demon consuming seal," said Minato, Kushina's eyes widening as she saw the spectral figure of the Shinigami appear behind him. "Let's put our trust into him. He's our son, after all," Minato stated, knowing Naruto will face challenges, enemies that will try to take him down, but believed he'll be strong enough to keep pushing forward. "When I'm finished with the seal, I'll seal your chakra inside Naruto. When the time comes for him to control the Kikbi's power, I want you to help him out," said Minato, with Kushina gritting her teeth before looking down at Naruto. "Our son, he's our son, which is why I don't want to put such a terrible burden on him," Kushina yelled, hating the idea of Naruto having such a burden before he's even a day old. "And why use the dead demon consuming seal? If it's just so I can meet Naruto all grown up, even if it's just for a little while, there's no need for you to die. I want you to stay by Naruto as he grows up and protect him." "And why? Why does he need to be sacrificed? For the balance of the Bijk, for the sake of nations and the village, why does it have to be Naruto? Why does it have to be you?" demanded Kushina as she panted tiredly while feeling blood fly out of her mouth, doubting she had much longer. "To forsake one's nation and one's village is the same as forsaking one's child. Your own homeland was destroyed, so you of all people should know the harsh life that awaits those without a home. Besides, our family is one of shinobi. And finally, even if I were to live, I'm no match to you," Minato admitted, knowing he could never take Kushina's place as Naruto's parent. "Even though you won't have much time with him, there are some things only you as his Kasan can tell Naruto, things that I can't. That's a Kasan's role. I'm not doing this just for you, I'm doing this for Naruto. I will gladly die for my son, it's my duty as his Tusan," said Minato. Kneeling down and picking Naruto up before looking at Kushina, the Uzumaki still not looking happy at his decision, with even the Shinigami watching them. Before Minato set Naruto down and took a deep breath, grunting when he felt the Shinigami's hand go through his back and appear through his stomach. The spectral limb stretching out towards the Kikbi and grabbing hold of the Bijk. "Damn you, Yondaime Hokage," the Kikbi thought, enraged as it felt the Shinigami grabbed it, knowing there's nothing it could do to stop itself from being sealed again, thanks to Kushina and her damn chains. Before the Kikbi suddenly felt its consciousness and soul being ripped away from its body, the fox only having a moment to realize what happened before being ripped away from its body. No one noticing the Kikbi's eyes suddenly glazed over or how it went completely still. "Seal," Minato said, panting as the Shinigami pulled what he believed was half of the Kikbi into him as an 8 trigram seal appeared on his abdomen. But that didn't feel so bad, actually, thought Minato, having expected to feel his chakra network be overloaded from half of the Kikbi's chakra being sealed into him or feel like his body would start breaking down. Shaking his head, Minato quickly summoned the ceremonial altar and set Naruto down on it, only to turn to Kushina when she coughed. "Kushina," Minato said, rushing over to the Riteid. I'm fine, just get it over with," Kushina said, knowing she couldn't talk him out of making Naruto a Jinchuriki. Nodding, Minato bit his thumb before going through hand signs, slamming his hand on the ground at the end. Summoning jutsu. Minato said, with Giratora appearing in a puff of smoke, only for the toad to immediately scream at seeing the Kyuubi. Aya. The Kyuubi and Minato, what the hell's going on here? Giratora shouted, wondering why he'd just been summoned into a situation like this. Giratora, I'm going to give you the 8 trigram seal key, I need you to take it immediately to Jiraiya-sensei and store it away. Said Minato, wanting to make sure the 8 trigram seal key was safe for when Naruto eventually needed it. With Giratora's eyes widening before he turned serious and nodded, his body stretching open and unraveled, revealing a large blank scroll. Going through hand signs again, Minato placed his hand on the scroll, causing the key to appear on. It's done. You have my word, the key will be safe and remain in my possession with Jiraiya. Now, I'm off. Giratora said before vanishing in a puff of smoke. That's it, then. Minato muttered, knowing he only had one thing left to do. Kushina, I'm going to start the 8 trigram seal, now. It'll be a while before you can see Naruto, is there anything you wanted to say to him? Said Minato, looking at his wife, Kushina grunting as she struggled to move closer to Naruto, smiling weakly at him. Naruto, don't be a picky eater, eat a lot and grow big and strong. Take your bath every day, go to bed early and sleep well. Study hard on your ninjutsu, I was never very good at it, maybe you will, everyone is good at some things and not so good at others, and if things don't go so well don't get so depressed. At the academy, listen to your teachers. Make friends. It doesn't matter how many, just make sure that they're people you can really trust and a few is enough. Regarding the 3 prohibitions of the shinobi, be careful when you loan and borrow money, make sure to save your missions, pay carefully, and no drinking alcohol until you're 20, too much sake is harmful for your body. As for girls, well, I'm a girl, so I don't really know what to say, but sooner or later, you'll want a girlfriend, and that's normal, just don't fall for a strange one, try to find someone like me. Naruto, there's going to be hard and painful times ahead, take good care of yourself, find a goal, a dream, and don't stop trying until it comes true. There's so much more I want to tell you, to teach you, I want to stay with you longer, I love you. Kushina said with tears in her eyes, wanting nothing more than to stay with him, to see him grow up, watch him make friends, comfort him when he's sad, see him become a ninja. Minato, I'm sorry, I used up your time. Said Kushina, with Minato smiling weakly and shook his head, feeling his own energy leaving him the longer he kept his jutsu going. It's fine. Naruto, my words to you as your 2-san, listen to your motor mouth, Ka-san. Minato said with a smile as he made a hand sign. 8 trigram seal. Said Minato, the Shinigami reaching out and grabbing the Kyuubi, its entire body turning into chakra that rushed forward into Naruto. Before doing the same to Kushina, the Uzumaki matriarch gasping as she felt the Shinigami grab not just the last of her chakra, but something else as well. Though she didn't have time to think on it as the Shinigami sealed it away into Naruto as well. With the contract being completed, the Shinigami devoured Minato's soul before vanishing, with both Minato's and Kushina's bodies falling to the ground. The impact startling Naruto awake, with the infant immediately starting to cry, being able to feel something was wrong and that his parents were gone. While the barrier Kushina created faded away, allowing the Sandaime Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, and a squad of Anbu to rush forward. Sarutobi looking at the bodies of his successor and his wife sadly, bowing his head in silence. Minato, you gave your life to protect the village and seal the Kyuubi away. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. Hiruzen mentally swore before he turned to the crying Naruto, picking him up and rocking him gently until he settled down. Gather Minato's and Kushina's bodies, we need to return to Konoha. Said Hiruzen, the Anbu nodding before they picked the bodies. With them soon making their way back towards the village, all of them unaware of what truly happened or that one of those they believed dead wasn't as gone as they thought. Mindscape, ugh fuck. Why does everything hurt? You'd think being dead would mean no pain. Kushina thought, feeling like she just had a building fall on top of her, the Redeed groaning as she opened her eyes with her vision being blurry. Where the hell am I now? Is this supposed to be the afterlife? It's a lot foggier than I thought it'd be. Thought Kushina as her vision started settling, only to find herself staring at what looked to be an endless sea of fog, along with the dark shapes in front of her. Only for her vision to finally settle, with Kushina seeing the dark shapes were actually bars before noticing she was inside a cage. And I'm in a cage too. The afterlife fucking sucks. Kushina muttered, not believing she's stuck in a cage in a sea of fog, before her eyes immediately snapped open as all drowsiness left her when the sound of her own voice registered for her. What the hell? What's wrong with my voice, said Kushina, only to trail off when she reached to touch her throat. But rather than seeing her normal human hand, she instead saw a hand covered in reddish-orange fur with claws bigger than her entire body. Her shock and horror only growing as she saw her arm was covered in the same reddish-orange fur as her hand, with her other arm being in the same state. What? Wah what I is th this Kushina stuttered as she looked down at her body, seeing she had the upper body structure of a human, but her lower half was a fox's. Slowly looking behind her, Kushina's shock and horror reached its peak when she saw 9 long, sweeping tails behind her. The sight making the Uzumaki scream as loud as she could. "Why am I the Kijbi?" screamed Kushina before slapped herself across the face, hoping and praying this was just a dream. Only to look at herself and see she was still the Kijbi, much to her shock and horror, not believing that this was happening. Before her eyes widened in realization on just how this happened. The seal, the dead demon-consuming seal, Minato must have made a mistake. He didn't seal half of the Kijbi into himself, just the fox's soul, leaving all its chakra. And when he went to seal my chakra, the Shinigami sealed my soul too. Kushina thought, realizing what happened, that her soul and chakra ended up inhabiting the Kijbi's empty body and merging with its chakra, turning her into the Kijbi. And she's now sealed inside her own son. Heart of Kushina couldn't help but wonder if this was some form of karma, with how she had the Kijbi chained to a boulder when it was sealed in her. Now she is the Kijbi and sealed away inside of Naruto, her own son. Well, I'm at least just an entity of chakra, it's not like this permanent. I just need to get the hang of all this, then I can try to reform my body. Kushina muttered, taking solace in the fact she'll eventually be able to reform her own body after getting a handle on her new situation. And at least this way I'll now be able to be part of Naruto's life rather than just one moment of it. Thought Kushina, feeling happy she'd actually get the chance to see her baby grow up and be part of his life. Time skip one day, Hokage's office, and here I was hoping when I retired, it'd be for good. Thought Sarutobi, sighing as he sat within the Hokage's office, now his office once again after retaking the title with Minato's death. Even with the panic and fear everyone was feeling after the Kijbi attack, he knew it'd help set them at ease to see someone they knew and trusted leading them again. As well as the fact that if he hadn't retaken the position, Hiruzen knew that Dansum would try making a move to become Hokage instead. And for as long as I'm still alive, he won't. Hiruzen thought, knowing the damage Dansum could do if he became Hokage, as despite his claims of doing everything for Konoha, he'd be more likely to turn the entire world against them in his bid for more power. That's not even counting what he'd do to the child. Sarutobi thought, looking at the crib that had been set up in his office, with Naruto sleeping peacefully within it. After returning to the village and meeting with the council and clan heads, Hiruzen thought it'd be best to keep Naruto's Jinchuriki status a secret. Not wanting to suddenly tell the entire village that the creature that nearly destroyed their home, killed an innumerable amount of people, including the Yondaime Hokage, was now sealed within a child. Though Sarutobi was pulled from his thoughts when the door to his office opened, making him frown when he saw Homura, Kaharu, and Dan's mentor. His frown deepening when he saw the latter instantly look towards the baby. "Is there something you three needed?" Sarutobi asked. "We merely wish to inform you that the clan heads will soon be arriving to discuss the rebuilding efforts," replied Homura, with Kaharu nodding in agreement. "We would also wish to know what you are planning to do with the Kijbi Jinchuriki, Hiruzen," said Dansum, making the Sandaime frown at him. "I have already been making arrangements. I've contacted Jiraiya to return to the village due to him having been named the child's godfather by Minato and Kushina," replied Hiruzen, intending to ask Jiraiya what the child's name was, having not learned what Minato and Kushina intended to name their son. "You intend to have the Jinchuriki in the care of that buffoon?" Dansum demanded with an annoyed expression at the idea of Konoha's weapon being raised by Jiraiya of all people. "Careful how you speak, Dansum, I am your Hokage once more. And no, Jiraiya is far too valuable outside the village with his spy network. I merely wish to have him return for a few days to ensure that the seal keeping the Kijbi held back is stable and to help boost morale in the village at having a Sannin around for a time," Sarutobi explained, with the Warhawk still frowning in annoyance. "A sound plan, Hiruzen. Yet what do you plan on doing after Jiraiya leaves?" questioned Kaharu. "I intend to place him within an orphanage while giving him mother's name as a means to avoid him being targeted by Minato's enemies," Sarutobi said with Homura and Kaharu nodding at this, while Dansum still frowned. "I believe such a course to be rather short-sighted, Hiruzen. The Jinchuriki must be trained as soon as possible, educated on its importance to Konoha's military structure, and ensured its loyalty lies solely with the village. I would be more than willing to take the Jinchuriki and myself to begin preparing it for future training," said Dansum, making the Sandaime narrow his eyes at his old rival before the door was suddenly slammed open. But the four elders immediately looking, only to see Mikoto Uchiha and Hitomi Hikita. With Mikoto being a fair-skinned woman with long, straight black hair with bangs hanging on either side of her face to roughly frame her cheeks and black eyes. She wore a simple dark purple blouse with a red plum skirt and a blue ninja sandals. And Hitomi also had pale fair skin, long dark purple hair slightly past her waist and side bangs framing her face down to her shoulders, and pupilless pale white eyes with a lilac tint. while wearing a long-sleeved purple kimono, blue ninja sandals, and was heavily pregnant at the moment. But both matriarchs glaring at Dansm, having heard what he said before coming in. His name is Naruto, and there's also no way in hell you lay a finger on him. Mikoto said, glaring at the Warhawk. Mikoto, Hitomi. What are you both doing here? Hiruzen asked, while feeling a headache beginning to form. Forgive us Hokage-sama, but after what happened last night and learning about Kushina's and Minato's death, we wanted to make sure their son was alright. And like Mikoto said, his name is Naruto. Replied Hitomi, with Hiruzen nodding at this, glad to now know the child's name. Well, you'll be relieved to know young Naruto is perfectly safe. Said Sarutobi, Mikoto and Hitomi turning towards the crib, smiling as they walked over to see Naruto for themselves. A little surprised to see he had black hair, but shrugged it off, feeling happy and relieved to see their friend's son is alright. Though also knowing what it meant with his parents dead and the Kikbi being gone, meaning he's now a Jinchuriki. Thank you, making sure he was brought back safely, Hokage-sama, and looking after him. Hitomi said, inclining her head, which the Hokage returned. Though I'll be taking him home with me now, so he can get settled in. Added Mikoto, picking Naruto up, causing the Hokage and elders' heads to immediately snap towards her. Absolutely not. Neither of you have any right to take the child with you, as he is not part of either of your clans. Homura said, not wanting to risk either the Uchiha or Hyuga clans taking the Jinchuriki in, especially the Uchiha. Maybe we don't share blood, but I am Naruto's godmother as well as his legal guardian, with Kushina and Minato both being gone. So I'm well within my right to bring him with me. Mikoto said, looking at them with a raised brow, while Hitomi nodded in agreement. I also made the offer to his parents to take Naruto in should anything happen to them, and if Mikoto was unable to. Something Minato and Kushina both agreed to as well. Said Hitomi. Yet that would still put you behind the child's godfather, Jiraiya. Who I believe would be better suited in taking the boy in, given I'm sure you two will be busy with helping your clans rebuild and your own children. Said Kaharu, only for both matriarchs to look at her blankly. Jiraiya. Raising a child. Said Mikoto, knowing how ridiculous that sounded. Not only at the idea of Jiraiya managing to stay in Konoha long enough to raise Naruto, but the chance of him traveling around with Naruto. Something that'd only be detrimental to the infant, being taken from place to place, never being able to settle down anywhere and always being on the move. That's not counting the chance of his heritage being discovered by his parents' enemies. Even it's known Jiraiya was Minato's teacher, so it'd be suspicious for him to be seen with a child with either his or Kushina's last name. I'm afraid that I still can't allow either of you to take Naruto with you. As a Jinchuriki, he can't be taken in by any clan, which could lead to him favoring them over the rest of the village, something that cannot happen. And I have already decided to place Naruto in an orphanage with his mother's name, ensuring he will remain hidden. Hiruzen said, with Mikoto and Hitomi scowling at the idea of Kushina's son being left in an orphanage. It's already been decided, Hokage-sama, Mikoto as the godmother will be able to take Naruto with her, due to it being a matter between the Uchiha clan and Uzumaki clan. Putting it out of your boundaries to stop us. Said Hitomi, with Mikoto nodding in agreement before they prepared to leave, only to stop when the Sandaime spoke again. Then you both leave me no choice. I am forbidding both of you from taking Naruto in or interacting with him at all, indefinitely. Said Hiruzen, with Mikoto and Hitomi freezing in place, before the Ravenette slowly moved back to the crib and set Naruto down. Before her head snapped towards the Hokage, with her Sharingan having activated in response to her anger, Hitomi's Byakugan also activating as well. Both women glaring at the Hokage and elders that they were trying to stop them. You can't do that. It would be interfering in clan business, something the Hokage has no say in what happens or what's done. Hitomi said, angry that the Hokage was actually stopping them from taking Naruto in or even interacting with him. Actually, he can. While the Hokage is normally forbidden from interfering in clan-related business, they are able to interfere should that business prove to threaten Konoha's stability and safety. And as the village's Jinchuriki, any interference in the boy's life can be counted as such. Said Dansm with a smug smirk, pleased that Hiruzen was for once acting like a real Hokage. Yet planning to turn him into an emotionless drone is perfectly fine. Hissed Mikoto, glaring at the Warhawk before turning back to the Hokage. And you, I had thought you'd at least want to honor Kushina's and Minato's wishes to make sure their son was raised in a loving environment. Instead of just leaving him alone with no one to care for him. Mikoto said, angry that the Sandaime would actually go this far. I am honoring their wishes by ensuring their son is safe and does not draw any attention that would reveal his heritage or status. Retorted Sarutobi, only for both women to scoff at his words. No, you aren't. You're leaving him alone to fend for himself. And why is that? Are you hoping to make him easier to manipulate into being a good little soldier? Because that's all we see you doing. Said Hitomi, with Sarutobi looking at them neutrally. My decision is final, neither of you will be taking Naruto in, nor will you be allowed to interact with him. Hiruzen stated, with the elders nodding in agreement. Though it seems both of you may not be trusted to interfere where you aren't needed. So, to ensure you both do not approach the Jinchuriki, we will be issuing restraining orders against both of you," added Hamura, much to their disbelief and anger, with Makoto looking ready to attack them, only for Hitomi to put a hand on her shoulder and lean in close to her. "Don't, you'll only be giving them more ammo. The best thing we can do is simply play along until we can figure something out where they can't stop us from taking Naruto in," Hitomi said quietly, with Makoto reluctantly nod but still glared at the Hokage and elders. "Fine, enjoy your petty little victory and damning an innocent child to being alone. I hope it tastes like ashes." Makoto spat before she and Hitomi took their leave, with Hiruzen frowning at their words. "You made the right choice, Hiruzen. A Jinchuriki must be seen putting the village above all else, not just a single clan. And we especially can't let the Uchiha get their hands on the Kyuubi if they did have a hand in the attack," Kaharu said, with the Sandaime nodding slowly, knowing it needed to be done for the good of Konoha. "And with the Uchiha compound being moved, I'll ensure that never happens." Dansum thought, making plans to find any and all documentation listing Makoto as Naruto's godmother to be gathered up and destroyed. And with the plans to relocate the Uchiha clan outside the village, as well Minato's and Kushina's deaths, it gave him the perfect opportunity to find and confiscate all of them, ensuring they'll have no proof to try and get their hands on the weapon. Plus, if everything goes as he plans, then Dansum knew in a few years they wouldn't have to worry about the Uchiha clan at all. None of the elders being aware that someone else had been listening in on their conversation. "Mindscape, you decrepit motherfuckers. If I wasn't stuck in here, I'd beat you all within an inch of your miserable lives, then hang you up by your fucking entrails," Kushina roared, enraged at what she just saw and heard. Having managed to modify the seal so she can see and hear what Naruto does, given the fact the 8 trigram seal was in Uzumaki clan Kenjutsu and their natural affinity with seals, making it easy for her to make some changes. With the new Kyuubi having been annoyed when she heard the Sandaime's plan to leave Naruto in an orphanage. Only to be relieved when Makoto and Hitomi arrived, happy that her friends would make sure her son grew up safe, happy, and loved. Before her annoyance returned and quickly turned into rage when she saw the Sandaime and those fossils not only stop them from taking Naruto, but they actually went far enough to go outside their boundaries to forbid them from even interacting with Naruto. Even going far enough to place restraining orders against them. "I swear when I get out of here and if anything happens to my baby, I will gut them with a commie damn smile on my face, use their bodies to build a home, and then paint it with their blood," growled Kushina, hating that she couldn't just break the seal and escape without endangering Naruto. Knowing that for now, she had to wait until she was ready to reform her old body and meet her son, then find a way to escape without him dying. But for now, she'd have to wait and bide her time, while doing what she can to make sure her baby was safe. "Time skip 5 years. If you two are really Haikyuu then show us your Byakugan," said a young boy as he and 2 others stood around 2 5-year-old girls. The first girl had short dark blue hair and a Haim cut and bangs that went down to her chin on either side of her face, fair skin, and pupilless pale white eyes with a lilac tint. With her wearing dark maroon shoes, blue pants, a pale purple shirt, a pale maroon coat, and a pale yellow scarf with stars on the ends. And the second girl had long dark brown hair that went down to the middle of her back, with long parted bangs with a single lock of hair that fell down in front of her face, fair skin, and the same pupilless pale white eyes with a lilac tint as the first girl. With her wearing dark blue boots, dark blue pants, a black shirt, white wristbands, and a tan-hooded jacket. These two were Hinata Haikyuu and Hanabi Haikyuu, the twin daughters of the Haikyuu clan head, Hiashi Haikyuu, and his wife, Hitomi Haikyuu. But the sisters having gone out with their caretakers KM and Natsu to play in the snow, given it was a rare moment when their father wasn't having them train for the entire day. While managing to slip away from KM and Natsu to enjoy themselves before they had to go back home. Only for them to end up running into the 3 older boys currently surrounding them before they began demanding to see their Byakugan. "We don't have to show you anything," Hanabi retorted, glaring at the boys. "And why not? You Haikyuu always like showing off your freaky eyes. Why don't you show them now?" The second boy said tauntingly while shoving Hanabi back. "Because we don't like wasting our time on losers like you 3. Now get lost before I make you," said Hanabi, with the bullies laughing at her, while Hinata looked at her sister nervously. Hanabi, maybe, we should Jeju just go," Hinata said, not wanting things to get worse. "No. We were having fun and they had to ruin it. Probably because no one else wanted to deal with them," Hanabi said mockingly, making the boys stop laughing before glaring at her. "Shut it, freak. You were the one staring at us with your stupid eyes. And if you won't show us your Byakugan then don't look at us," retorted the third boy. "Yeah. Your eyes are creepy," the first boy added, making Hinata flinch while Hanabi scowled. "I bet they're actually monsters with their creepy eyes," said the second boy. "Yeah, they're probably Byakugan monsters," the third boy said before they started laughing again. with Hanabi glaring at them before looking at her sister, her anger only growing when she saw Hinata was now crying and covering her face. That's it. Hanabi thought, glaring at the boys, not caring if she'll get in trouble, but refused to let them get away with making her sister cry. Hey. Leave them alone. Someone said, making the boys stop laughing before they all turned to see who spoke, with Hanabi and Hinata doing the same, the latter looking up from her hands. Seeing it was a 5-year-old boy with spiky jet black hair, pale skin, and bright blue eyes, along with 3 whisker markings on his cheeks. With his attire consisting of black shoes, dark blue-gray pants, a black shirt, a black jacket with red sleeves and edging on the bottom and collar with a red swirl on the back and a red scarf around his neck. Look at the shrimp. The second boy said while laughing. Who are you? Said the third boy, with a ravenet glaring at the 3. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, future Hokage. Declared Naruto, with Hinata and Hanabi looking at him in slight recognition, having seen him a few times before around the village. Oh, the future Hokage, huh? Said the first boy with a taunting smirk. Come on, what are you, stupid? A shrimp like you being Hokage. The third boy, making Naruto scowl before making a hand sign. I'll show you. Clone jutsu. Naruto said, surprising the boys that he could perform a jutsu. But rather than creating any clones, Naruto only managed to create one pale, dead-looking clone in front of him. The sight causing the bullies to laugh at the pathetic-looking clone, only for their laughter to be cut off when Naruto suddenly tackled the first boy to the ground. Now who's the shrimp, asshole? Naruto said as he began punching the boy, who cried out at the attacks and tried shielding himself. Though the Uzumaki wasn't able to do much before the other 2 boys grabbed him and threw him down into the snow, with the first boy getting up and glaring at him. You're gonna pay for that, loser. Shouted the boy, with Naruto quickly trying to get up only for the bully to punch him in the face, knocking him back down. Taken out by one punch. So much for the future Hokage. The boy said as the 3 laughed before began kicking Naruto and pushing him back down when he tried getting up. Hinata-sama. Hanabi-sama. Someone shouted, making the bullies freeze, thinking they were caught, while Hinata and Hanabi were relieved when they saw KM and Natsu running towards them. Natsu has fair skin, short dark green hair, and like the rest of the Hyuga clan, had featureless wide eyes with a lilac tint. With her wearing a full-length black kimono, a white apron, and black boots, along with a Konoha forehead protector around her forehead. And KM has short brown hair that was spiked backwards, featureless wide eyes, and his nose is broad and well-defined. His attire consisting of a forehead protector worn as a bandana, a black kimono, and dark blue boots. Are you 2 alright? Natsu asked, looking them over in concern, having been worried when they lost track of the 2 heiresses. We we're fine, and na Natsu. Replied Hinata, relieved their caretakers were here to help. But those 3 were bullying us. Then they started attacking that kid when he tried helping us. Hanabi said, pointing at the bullies, the 3 paling when Natsu and KM looked at them with narrowed eyes. But when the 2 saw just who it was that came to help Hinata and Hanabi, they frowned when they recognized Naruto as the Kikbijinch Kriki. Something that had only been revealed about 5 months ago when word began spreading around the village. Which had upset more than a few people at learning the monster that attacked their home and killed hundreds of their loved ones was still around. Come along, Hinata-sama, we must get you both back home. KM said, grabbing Hinata's hand, with Natsu doing the same with Hanabi, much to the twins' shock. But Naruto also being shocked that they were just going to leave like that without even trying to help him. Before crying out when the bullies laughed and began attacking him again, seeing that the 2 Hyuga weren't going to stop them. Boo but, whwh what about thth thaw that beep-beep-oh boy? Hinata asked, looking at Naruto in concern and worry, wincing at seeing the bullies attacking him again. It would be best if you ignore that boy, Hinata-sama, someone like that isn't fit to be associated with members of the Hyuga clan. Let alone the clan's heiresses. Said KM, not wanting Hinata to be associated with the Kikbijinch Kriki. We can't just leave him like that. Said Hanabi, wanting to at least help Naruto for defending her and her sister, only for Natsu to stop her from turning back. Hanabi-sama, the same goes for you. Trust us, that boy is dangerous, and nothing but trouble will come from you 2 interacting with him. The best thing to do is just ignore him, alright? Natsu said, refusing to let something happen to the twins by interacting with Naruto. While Hinata and Hanabi looked at them in disbelief before looking back at Naruto in concern, unable to do anything as the bullies continued attacking him. The twins remained silent the entire way back to the compound, still not believing KM and Natsu would leave that boy to be beat up after he tried helping them. With it not being long before they soon arrived back at the Hyuga compound, where they were greeted by their mother, Hitomi, smiling at seeing her daughters. Hinata, Hanabi. Did you 2 have fun? Hitomi asked, making the sisters smile slightly and nod in response. Yes, it was really nice getting to go outside, the snow is also really pretty. Said Hinata, having enjoyed their time outside before encountering the bullies. Yeah, it was fun, until we ran into some jerks that tried pushing us around and demanding to see our Byakugan, then started calling us monsters when we didn't. Hanabi added with her smile turning into a scowl, Hitomi frowning at this. Are you both alright? Did they do anything? Questioned Hitomi, looking at them before turning her attention towards Natsu and KM. No, Hitomi-sama. We arrived before any harm could be done to Hinata-sama and Hanabi-sama. KM replied, with Natsu nodding in agreement. But you didn't do anything to help that boy. Retorted Hanabi glaring at their caretakers, with Hitomi's frowning deepening at this. What does she mean? Hitomi said, narrowing her eyes at KM and Natsu as the two gulping at the expression on her face, neither of them sure how to respond. Tht there was a b-bo boy whuh he helped us. B-boo boo but tht the bullies poo pushed him down, and began kai kicking him. And KKM and Nanatsu die didn't help him, tht then they left him alone and told you us not to interact with him. Hinata revealed, the Hike matriarch going still at hearing this, before her expression slowly turned to one of cold fury as she looked at KM and Natsu. But both Hike paling and shaking at the look on Hitomi's face, now lacking the usual warmth she was known for. Well, Hitomi didn't take long to guess who it was that helped her daughters, only to then be left alone to be attacked. You two left a 5-year-old boy alone to be hurt and attacked after he came to my daughter's defense. Am I understanding that correctly? Hitomi said coldly while moving past her daughters, with Hinata and Hanabi looking at her in shock, having never seen their mother act or sound like this. On only ddd die did, whwh what, www thought, was bbb best. KM stuttered while lowering his head, knowing exactly what that tone entailed. But they're no longer standing before the kind and caring Hike matriarch, they were now looking at one of the 3 demon queens of Konoha. A nickname that Hitomi shared with Makoto and Kushina during their time fighting in the Third Great Shinobi War, given how they became viewed as demons by their enemies. But Kushina's skill in Kenjutsu and her adamantine sealing chains, plus, unknown to KM and Natsu, being a Jinchuriki of Kikbi and her already fearsome temper. Having been known as the red hot-blooded habanero as a child before being regarded as the Crimson Death as an adult. While Makoto had her Sharingan, Taijutsu, fire-style ninjutsu and Jinjutsu, the latter of which being where she truly thrived. Having greater skill in casting illusions than anyone else in Konoha, not needing to make eye contact or any form of gesture to trap someone in her illusions. Eventually earning the moniker the Dollmaker as anyone she captures in her illusions are reduced to little more than puppets and dolls for her to play with. And Hitomi, despite her gentle personality, could be just as fearsome as her friends with her Byakugan and Jiken, plus her own unique version of the latter. Having incorporated her wind and water affinities into her Jiken, making it even deadlier. Being able to push elemental chakra into an opponent's Tenketsu, with wind chakra shredding them from the inside out and water chakra allowing her to even control their movements. But the deadliest part is that she learned to combine her affinities together to create Heimten via an advanced form of elemental manipulation, known as elemental fusion. Which allowed Hitomi to freeze opponents with just a single strike until they're nothing but human ice sculptures. With this ability making her known as the Yuki-onna. KM still remembered having seen Hitomi on the battlefield, it honestly terrified him at how drastically she could change when killing enemy ninja. Especially when incorporating her Heimten to freeze their limbs before shattering them or simply freezing their entire bodies. And now he saw the same expression on her face as when she was the Yuki-onna, looking at them as if they were lower than dirt. Oh? So you now think you know what's best for my daughters? Making them believe it's okay to leave a child to be beaten after they help them. Is that you're saying, KM? Hitomi demanded while raising a brow, with KM paling before Natsu rapidly shook her head. No, of course not Hitomi-sama. We don't wish for Hinata-sama and Hanabi-sama to get hurt by interacting with that boy. I swear, the only thing we wish for is to make sure they are safe. Natsu said quickly, only to flinch when Hitomi turned towards her before the matriarch gained a small cold smile. I believe you, Natsu. Which is why I'm only doing this to you. Hitomi said, confusing Natsu for a moment. Only for her, KM, Hinata and Hanabi to be shocked when Hitomi suddenly backhanded Natsu across her face, the hit being even more painful due to the chakra she channeled into her hand. With Natsu crying out as she was knocked down to the floor, screaming in a fetal position as she held her face in shock and pain before turning to Hitomi in fear, not believing she actually struck her. As for you, said Hitomi turning back towards KM, before to his horror, she made a hand sign activating the cage bird seal on him. But KM immediately dropping to the ground and grabbing his head, screaming in pain from the seal, much to Hinata's and Hanabi's growing shock. Not believing their mother was actually going as far as to use the cage bird seal, something she'd never done before. Hitomi kept the seal activated for a few more moments before finally stopping, allowing KM to catch his breath. WHWHWHWHWHWHYKM stuttered, now terrified that Hitomi was angry enough to use the caged bird seal, but also wanting to know why his was activated while Natsu's wasn't. Because, unlike you, Natsu is just a maid and only a kunoichi of the Haika clan, so she at least has an excuse for ignorance, no matter how minor it is. Said Hitomi, glancing at the greenette, making Natsu flinch at the harsh words. You on the other hand are a Chunin, and I hoped you would be smart enough to know the difference between a kunai and the scroll it's stored in. But, clearly, I overestimated your intelligence. Hitomi added while looking down at KM, aware her daughters were still present and didn't mention Naruto's Jinchuriki status, but knew KM and Natsu would know what she meant. Though since it seems you two are under the impression you know what is best for my daughters, along with how you're both willing to abandon a child to be assaulted, you're both officially relieved of your duties as their caretakers. Said Hitomi, much to their shock. Wait. Hitomi-sama, please, we'll never do such a thing again. But please let us continue our duty and care for Hinata-sama and Hanabi-sama. Natsu said pleadingly, having always been fond of twins and loved taking care of them, only to flinch when Hitomi gave her a warning look. You should be thankful I don't do worse. Now both of you, leave. Hitomi ordered, making Natsu bow her head sadly before quickly leaving, with KM immediately getting up and bowing before running, not wanting to risk angering one of the demon queens further. Taking a deep breath to calm herself, Hitomi turned towards her daughters and knelt down in front of them, smiling reassuringly at them. I'm sorry you both had to see that, I was just very upset at hearing what they did. Hitomi said, with Hinata and Hanabi still looking at her shock. Did you do that, Kasan? Hinata asked, not believing their kind and caring mother not only struck Natsu, but activated KM's caged bird seal too. Is it because of that boy? Questioned Hanabi, wondering why she'd reacted like that over a stranger, even if he did help them. Yes, it's because of Naruto. Replied Hitomi, surprising them that she knew his name. How'd you know this name? Hanabi said, given they didn't mention Naruto's name. That would be because I was very close friends with Naruto's mother, Kushina. Unfortunately, she and her husband died the day Naruto was born, being victims of the Kikbi attack. Hitomi revealed, surprising them again, before Hitomi continued. Me and our other friend, Mikoto Uchiha, had actually planned to take him in. Mikoto, especially, since she's his godmother and I would have taken him in if she was unable to. Said Hitomi with a frown. We could have had a brother? Hinata asked in surprise, making Hitomi smile and nod. Yes, and even if he wasn't raised with us and instead lived with Mikoto, both of you still would have met him plenty of times, along with Mikoto's own children. Said Hitomi, with the sisters imagining what it would have been like to have Naruto as a brother. Why didn't you then? Questioned Hanabi, causing the matriarch's smile to turn into a frown before sighing. Because the Hokage and the elders had forbade us from taking Naruto in or even interacting with him, placing restraining orders against Mikoto and I to ensure we didn't go near him. Hitomi replied, shocking the twins. Why would the Hokage do that? Wouldn't it be good if he was raised in a clan? Hinata said, not understanding why the Hokage would forbid their mother and Mikoto from raising Naruto. The question making Hitomi's frown deepen, wondering if she should tell them the full truth or not, before deciding not to. Not wanting to risk them accidentally telling the wrong person with it getting back to the Hokage and elders. Let's just say that Naruto is a very important person, it may not seem like it, but he is. And the Hokage believes that because of who Naruto is, he's important to the village, and believes that if Naruto was taken in by me or Mikoto, he'd grow up to favor our clans over the whole village. So, instead, he's made it so no one can raise Naruto, believing that will make him only care about the village as a whole, since he has no one that cares about him. Explained Hitomi, with Hinata and Hanabi frowning at this. That sounds stupid. Hanabi said bluntly, wondering how someone could care about the village if they didn't have anyone in the village to care about or who cared about them. Yes, it certainly is. Hitomi said, smiling at her daughter before facing both of them. But that's also why you both should try to befriend Naruto and show him there are those that care. Since KM and Natsu aren't the only ones that'd tell you to not interact with him, nearly everyone else in the village only see Naruto as trouble and dangerous. But don't listen to anyone who says that, talk to him, get to know him, see for yourselves the kind of person Naruto is. And trust me, you'll see he can be pretty great. Said Hitomi, with Hinata and Hanabi trading a look before nodding to their mother. Okay Kasan, we'll try. Hinata said, with a small smile. We still need to thank him for helping us, anyway. Said Hanabi, making Hitomi smile at her daughters before kissing their foreheads, happy to know Naruto will at least have some friends now. With Naruto, Mindscape. Meanwhile, Kushina couldn't stop roaring and cursing in anger as she watched her son get beaten by the bullies. Having first been happy when he came to the defense of the two girls, who she knew had to be Hitomi's daughters with their looks. only to be enraged when the bullies began ganging up on him, kicking him while he was on the ground. Her anger only growing when KM and Natsu arrived, yet did nothing to help her son, even going as far as telling Hitomi's daughters to stay away from him. You little fucking shits. Be thankful I'm in here right now or I'd put you fuckers in a little hospital. And would tears those fucking pale-eyed fuckers' lungs out through their assholes for leaving my baby alone. Kushina shouted, slamming her fist against the wall of the cage, while unconsciously leaking out bitch chakra in response to her anger. The chakra leaking through the bars and flowing into Naruto's own chakra network, not only giving him a boost, but helping him unlock something incredibly useful. Real world. Back in the real world, Naruto couldn't help but grit his teeth as he curled up into a ball in the snow as the bullies had continued their assault. Having only stopped when they took his scarf and began ripping and stretching it before they went back to kicking and insulting him. Why? Why me? Why is this happening? Naruto thought, angry that this is what he got for trying to help someone. Having not thought when he saw the two girls being pushed around, only seeing that they needed help, along with part of him hoping that maybe if he helped them he'd finally have some friends. Only for the bullies to be stronger than he thought before they began beating him. Though he felt some hope when the two other Haiku arrived, only for it fade away when they did nothing to try and help. Only taking the girls away and telling them not to go near him, that he was dangerous and trouble. Why? What did I do? Why does everyone suddenly hate me? Why? Thought Naruto as his anger grew, wondering what he did to suddenly start being hated, isolated, and glared at by everyone. Naruto squeezed his eyes shut when he felt a sudden stinging sensation in them, only for them to snap open at a sudden rush of power through his body. Not seeing his whisker marks becoming thicker and bolder, his pupils narrowing into slits as his eyes turned red, his nails growing into claws, his canines becoming fangs, or as steam began emitting off his body. But the snowfall around them intensifying into a blizzard. What Naruto did feel though, was anger and hatred at these bullies for attacking him before he glared at them, while everything suddenly seemed to be going in slow motion. The Uzumaki seen one of their legs coming towards his face, only for him to instantly grab it. Hey. What are you, Aya? The bully said, only to scream in shock and pain when Naruto shot up, still holding his leg and slammed his fist into his face. The sight of their friend getting knocked down shocking the other two bullies, before becoming afraid when Naruto turned his head towards them, showing crimson red eyes with slit pupils. And strangely enough, both eyes now had a single tomo spinning around the pupil as well as his hands now balled in fists and covered in ice, with the one he punched the bully with being coated in blood. Before the bullies could anything, Naruto suddenly swung their friend's body at them, knocking the two back, crying out as they crashed into the ground. With Naruto then spun the bully he was still holding around, shouting as he then threw the bully face first into a tree. Turning towards the other two, Naruto ran right at them, making the bullies panic, with a whiskered Ravenet jumping up and slamming his knee into the second bully's chin. Only to then duck under a punch from the third bully from behind, thinking he could take Naruto out while his back was turned. The third bully then let out a squeal of agony when Naruto actually slammed his fist into his crotch, with his pain and agony intensify. He felt his busted up junk get frozen from the inside out. But the bully being silenced when Naruto then slammed his fist into chin, knocking the bully into the air before Naruto grabbed him and smashed him into the ground. Looking back at the second bully, who was getting back up after the knee strike to his chin, only to pale when he saw Naruto looking at him. With the bully backing away, only to cry out when Naruto charged him and slammed his fist right into his face, shattering the bully's nose. Panting slightly, Naruto looked around and saw all three bullies on the ground, groaning and moaning in pain. Going over to each of the bullies, the Uzumaki grabbed each of them by the leg and dragged them across the ground before dropping them under a large tree. Once all three were piled on top of each other, Naruto grunted as he kicked the tree as hard as he could, causing a large pile of snow to drop on top of the bullies. "Who's the shrimp now, assholes?" Naruto said before turning away, with his appearance returning to normal for the most part as the blood-covered ice now shattering off his hands, while his eyes remained red with a tomo in each of them. Though Naruto frowned when he saw the state his scarf was in, sighing as he picked it up before walking away. But did feel pleased he was at least able to help those girls and get back at the bullies. Completely unaware that the blizzard was now dying down as he began to cool his temper and calm down. "My eyes still feel weird, though," thought Naruto rubbing his eyes, only to grunt when he bumped into someone and ended up falling onto the ground. "You alright, kid?" the person asked, their voice showing they were Guy, with Naruto looking up at them. Seeing that it was a young man who looked a few years older than him with pale skin, short, unkempt, dark black hair, black eyes, a relatively broad nose and well-defined eyelashes that were turned upwards at each end. With him wearing a black long-sleeved shirt underneath a black high-collared shirt, a tanto strapped to his back, long grey pants, and black boots, along with a Konoha headband around his forehead. "I'm fine. What are you looking at?" Naruto said, frowning at the guy's shocked expression, before he quickly shook his head and smiled in a laid-back way. "Sorry, you just looked familiar for a second. And sorry about bumping into you, there," said the guy, surprising Naruto that he apologized to him. "It's fine," said Naruto before walking around the guy, only to tense when he put a hand on his shoulder. "Whoa, where are you off to in such a hurry?" The guy asked in amusement at how quickly he's trying to leave. "I'm going home," Naruto said wearily, wanting to just go home now after having to deal with those bullies. "Then come on, I'll walk you back. Can't exactly have a kid walking around on his own," offered the guy, surprising Naruto again that he'd offer to take him home. "Who are you?" questioned Naruto, wondering who exactly this guy was. "Shisui Uchiha at your service. Now come on," Shisui introduced with a smile before motioning Naruto to follow him, the whiskered Ravenet doing so while still looking at the Uchiha in confusion. Later with Shisui, "Forgive my sudden arrival, Fugaku-sama, Mikoto-sama. But I have something urgent I needed to tell you both," Shisui said while bowing to the Uchiha clan head and his wife. Having headed straight for the Uchiha compound to speak with them after bringing Naruto back home, knowing he needed to tell them what he just learned. "You have nothing to apologize for, Shisui, whatever it is must be important if you came to us," Fugaku said while waving off his apology. "What did you need to tell us?" Mikoto asked curiously, knowing it had to be important given the serious look on the normally laid-back Uchiha's face. "I had been out training and had just finished before preparing to return to the compound when I ran into Naruto Uzumaki," Shisui replied, making Fugaku frown in confusion, while Mikoto gained a worried look. "Did something happen to him?" Mikoto asked, worried that something happened to her godson. "I'm not sure. But when I found him, I honestly don't know how it's possible, but he possesses the Sharingan," revealed Shisui, with Fugaku's and Mikoto's eyes widening in shock and disbelief. That's not possible." "Are you sure it was the Sharingan?" Fugaku said, knowing it could have potentially been the Kikbi's chakra turning his eyes red. "I'm positive both of them had a single Tomo. I even brought him back to his home and saw they returned to their normal blue color when we got there. I even looked at him with my own Sharingan and saw that the chakra pathways to his eyes have changed in a similar way to our own whenever an Uchiha awakens the Sharingan for the first time," Shisui replied, neither of the two able to believe what they just heard before Fugaku leaned in close to his wife. "Do you know how this is possible?" "Could either of them have?" Fugaku said quietly, with Mikoto shaking her head. "Kushina definitely didn't have any Uchiha blood and Minato never showed any sign of having the Sharingan, either. But no one really knows who his family is, it's possible he was descended from an Uchiha and just never awakened it. It'd also explain why Naruto has black hair," said Mikoto, Fugaku nodding slowly in agreement since that's the most likely possibility. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention, Shisui. Though I must ask you don't tell anyone else of this, either," Fugaku said, aware of the trouble that had come from the knowledge the Kikbi-Jinchuriki had the Sharingan and descended from the Uchiha clan, knowing they needed to handle this delicately. "Of course replied Shisui while nodding, having similar thoughts to the clan head. Shisui then shunshined away, while Mikoto soon gained an eager smile, as while it's shocking to learn Naruto had the Sharingan. This also now gave her and Hitomi the perfect opportunity to finally take care of Naruto. As well as lifting the restraining orders the Hokage elders placed on them. Knowing there's nothing they can do to stop them now, Hitomi sat within the garden, having come out here to try and calm her nerves after learning what happened to her daughters and Naruto. Still feeling angry at KM and Natsu for leaving him to fend for himself, but also furious with the Hokage elders. Given if it wasn't because of them and their damn restraining order, she would have gone to help Naruto herself. Of course if they didn't stop us in the first place, then this wouldn't have happened at all. Hitomi thought with an annoyed scowl, knowing he would have actually been allowed to grow up in a safe and loving environment, as well as having protection from the village after his Jinchuriki status was leaked, something she and Mikoto both agreed was likely Danzum's doing. Probably in an attempt to further isolate Naruto, making it that much easier for him to eventually make a move to manipulate and control the Uzumaki. Though if the Warhawk did try, then it'd be his last mistake since if the Hokage refused to finally kill Danzum, then she and Mikoto would be more than happy to do so. Consequences be damned. He should have been killed years ago, thought Hitomi, wishing there was something they could do but had to wait for an opportunity. Before the Hika matriarch was pulled from her thoughts when she felt her husband, Hiashi, approaching her. "What do you want, Hiashi?" Hitomi asked neutrally while turning back towards the garden, not in the mood to deal with him at the moment. Something that, she was sad to admit, hadn't always been the case. Having once enjoyed spending time with Hiashi whenever she could. Unfortunately, that started changing once he became the Hika clan head, becoming more rigid and serious in leading the clan, but still at least made time for them to spend together while showing that he still had a kind and caring side. Only for things to really start deteriorating when Hinata and Hanabi were born, with Hiashi immediately starting their training when they were old enough and held nothing back. much to Hitomi's growing worry and frustration whenever she saw the state they were in afterwards. Then what's now known as the Haika affair happened, where Kumagakure's head ninja tried kidnapping their daughters. Having come under the pretense of forming a treaty between Konoha and Kumo, only for it to be a ruse to steal the Byakugan. With Hiashi having found and killed him before he could escape. Except, they hadn't learned it was Kumo's head ninja until after he was dead, with Kumo demanding retribution for the unjust murder of their head ninja, with them wanting Hiashi's body in exchange. But instead of Hiashi, they got her brother-in-law and Hiashi's own twin brother, Hisashi, who had offered himself as a means to protect the Byakugan's secrets, prevent a war, and to save Hiashi's life. Seeing it as a chance for him to choose his own fate for once, rather than what was chosen for him. Something that saddened Hitomi, even more so with the effect it had on Hisashi's son, Niji. Though after the incident, Hiashi had become even more cold and relentless in his treatment and training of Hinata and Hanabi. Even more so on the former, due to Hinata's kindness holding her back from seriously injuring opponent. While even Hanabi, who didn't have the same restrictions of holding back, was still left beaten down and injured. With Hitomi's frustration turning into anger when she first found her daughters barely able to get into their beds after their training. Eventually leading to her and her husband getting into several fights over their training. Along with how Hiashi's become colder and more distant, putting his focus on what's best for the Haika clan. Which also lead them to barely interacting with each other outside of official matters involving the clan, Hitomi also knowing that her own feelings for him have begun fading as more time passed. Having a hard time seeing him as the same person she grew to love. Not with how he's now treating Hinata and Hanabi, along with only caring about the good of the Haika clan. KM has informed me that you relieved him and Natsu of their positions as Hinata's and Hanabi's caretakers after you struck Natsu and activated the caged bird seal on him. Hiashi stated, making Hitomi glance at him with a raised brow. I think you almost sound surprised just now, here I thought you didn't like showing emotion anymore. Said Hitomi, with the clan head frowning at her words. Why have you dismissed them? Questioned Hiashi, the perplexed scoffing quietly that KM hadn't revealed just why she dismissed. They had failed in their duty to look after the girls. Not only were they not around while Hinata and Hanabi being bullied, they were setting a poor example by doing nothing to help the one who did step in to help our daughters. So, yes, I dismissed them and punished them as such, refusing to let them try influencing Hinata and Hanabi into making similar decisions in the future. Hitomi explained, with Hiashi's frown deepening. Their duty is to look after Hinata and Hanabi, nothing more, nothing less. And from what I heard neither of them were injured, so I see no reason for them to have been dismissed. Hiashi said, only for Hitomi to look at him with narrowed eyes. Oh, so you think it's perfectly alright for our daughters to simply walk away and let someone be beaten after they offered their help? Or that it's simply expected for others to throw themselves into danger to protect them? Demanded Hitomi, feeling herself getting angry. No, merely that Natsu and KM both did what was expected of them, ensuring our daughters were brought home safely, as well as keeping them away from a potential threat, such as that boy. Stated Hiashi, with the matriarch's anger growing at his words. His name is Naruto, and he is the last person who could be considered a threat to either of the girls. He's the only reason that they weren't actually hurt, and how is that kindness repaid? He's left alone to be beaten. Hitomi retorted. Perhaps the boy himself isn't a threat, but what he contains very much is. What happens when something sets him off and he begins tapping into the beast's power? What will happen to Hinata or Hanabi should they be near him when that happens? And even if it wasn't for his status, the boy is still nothing but trouble, pulling childish pranks and vandalizing property just to get attention. If either of our daughters were seen interacting with such a person, it would make others believe the Haika clan approves such behavior. Hiashi said before turning his back towards her, much to Hitomi's anger that he thought they were done. Now, enough of your own behavior, I will be informing KM and Natsu, they will be resuming their duties as the girls' caretakers, and that is final. Said Hiashi, with the perplexed shooting up to her feet at this. The hell you will. Shouted Hitomi, moving in front of Hiashi and stopping him, surprising the clan head a little at the glare on her face. I won't have either of them trying to manipulate and influence my daughters, making them believe an innocent little boy could ever be a threat or dangerous. They had their chance to set a good example for Hinata and Hanabi, and they blew it. Hitomi said, with Hiashi's surprise fading as he narrowed his eyes at her. I am the head of the Haika clan, and it is my decision alone on who will look after my daughters, not yours. Hiashi retorted. Like hell it isn't. You barely even spend any time with Hinata or Hanabi, the only time you do is during training. I don't care if you were the sage of six paths himself, I will decide if anyone will look after my daughters. Said Hitomi as Hiashi's expression began turning into a glare as well as neither of them refused to back down. Well, if your decisions for them would be to interact with that boy, it would only result in them being ostracized and treated as outcasts, just like him. Is that what you believe is best for them, to befriend someone like that and have the entire village turn against them and the rest of the Haika clan? I know what is best for my daughters and it's not wasting their time on a Jinchuriki. Hiashi said, only for Hitomi to grab him by his collar as her Byakugan flared at life. Don't ever call him that ever again or refer to him as some kind of object. He's the son of one of my best friends and if I had my way, he'd be living here regardless of whether you and the rest of those stuck-up elders liked it or not. And no, you don't know what's best for Hinata or Hanabi, you only know what's best for the clan. You barely even treat them as your daughters anymore, only seeing one of them as a successor to mold until they're as cold, unfeeling, and obsessed with the Haika clan as you and the elders are. Hitomi yelled before shoving Hiashi back, making him stumble for a moment, but managed to catch himself as the perplet glared at him. I told Hinata and Hanabi who Naruto is, I encouraged them to get know him, to befriend him, and repay the kindness he showed them when he had no reason to help them. Because that is the right thing to do, and I will make damn sure both of my daughters grow up to be better than the rest of us. And you will not be assigning anyone else as their caretakers either. If you don't like it, then too bad, Hiashi-sama. Hitomi said, with Hiashi dusting off his robes before giving her a cold look. This discussion is over. And I will be assigning caretakers for our daughters, whether you like it or not. And should they ever interact with that boy, I will forbid them from leaving the compound entirely until the time comes for them to enter the academy. That is something you cannot stop, am I understood? Said Hiashi before walking past Hitomi, the woman clenching her fists tightly, angered at what he just said and believed he could control her daughters' lives. I want a divorce. Said Hitomi, causing Hiashi to freeze mid-step and look back at her with wide eyes. Seeing Hitomi looking at with an icy cold expression on her face, lacking any warmth or affection at all, only regarding him with cold indifference. I refuse to let you or anyone else believe they can control my daughters' lives, that you can decide who they can or can't be friends with. And I'm certainly not going to put up with you belittling and insulting Kushina's son when he has done nothing to deserve being treated like this. So, this is over, for good. I'll be moving to another part of the compound and I'm taking my daughters with me. Hitomi said, feeling any lingering feelings she had for Hiashi completely fade away. Knowing this was the last straw for her, having been tempted to do this with how brutally he was training Hinata and Hanabi. But now hearing he planned to basically control their entire lives, Hitomi refused to let that happen or leave them alone. While Hiashi looked at her in surprise, not thinking she'd actually go that far as to put an end to their marriage, before narrowing his eyes at her thinking she could try taking the clan heiresses away. If you wish to put an end to our marriage, so be it. But Hinata and Hanabi will be remaining in my care to continue their training and education in leading the Haika clan. Stated Hiashi, only for Hitomi to glare at him. No, they won't, they'll be living with me, and I am more than capable of training them at a more reasonable and fair pace. But if you want to fight over it, then fine, let's fight. That's how I'm sure you were planning to decide which of them would be the official heiress. Well, let's see if you're willing to fight to see which of us will get to raise them. Unless, of course, you're scared that I'll win. Hitomi said challengingly with a cold smile, with Hiashi clenching his fist slightly. Very well, if that is the way you wish to settle things, so be it. The winner will gain full custody of Hinata and Hanabi. Hiashi said, the perplet nodding in agreement. Yes, I will. See you in let's say an hour, I'm sure you'll need it. Said Hitomi with a mocking edge before brushing past Hiashi to go prepare for their duel and start getting everything to prepared for where she and her daughters will soon be living. Later, after an hour had passed, Hitomi and Hiashi stood across from each other on the sparring field with a good portion of the main house and some of the branch family standing around the field. With word of their matching having spread once they'd spoken with the elders of their separation. As well as how they intended to have a duel to settle which of them will have full custody of Hinata and Hanabi. All of them wishing to watch the duel between the Haika clan head and one of the three demon queens. With the branch members mostly being interested in seeing at least one member of the main house be knocked down, mostly Hiashi himself. I will offer you one last chance to end this foolishness, Hitomi. Surrender now and you will still be allowed to see and visit Hinata and Hanabi in between their training. Continue, and you will never see them again. Hiashi said warningly, with Hitomi merely raising a brow at him as she got into the Jiken stance. Funny, usually the person who seeks to avoid a fight is the one that knows they've already lost. Perhaps you should take your own advice and surrender. Said Hitomi, making Hiashi expression harden as he got into the Jiken stance as well. Very well, never say I didn't give you the chance. Stated Hiashi while activating his Byakugan, with Hitomi doing the same as they stared each other down. Not a moment later, the two rushed at each other, with Hiashi thrusting his hand forward to strike Hitomi's Tenketsu in her arm. Only for Perplet to quickly deflect the strike with the back of her hand before twisting her arm around Hiashi's, holding it down. Before Hitomi thrust her other hand at Hiashi's stomach, wanting to take him out quickly. Gentle fist art one blow body. Hiashi said as he began releasing chakra from all his tenketsu just before Hitomi could strike him, surprising the matriarch before grunting as she was thrown back by the force of the expelled chakra. Managing to catch herself and land on her feet, Hitomi was forced back when Hiashi rushed her again, nearly striking her tenketsu a few times. 8 trigrams vacuum palm. Said Hitomi once she jumped back, putting some distance between her and Hiashi, before thrusting her hand towards the snow-covered ground. Releasing a vacuum shell of compressed air that hit the ground, kicking up a large amount of snow and sending it flying everywhere. With Hitomi rotating her arms around while expelling her chakra through her tenketsu to manipulate the snow until it melted into water. Water needles. Hitomi said before she began rapidly thrusting her palms forward, hitting the water and sending it flying towards Hiashi in the shape of senbon. Narrowing his eyes at the sight of the water needles flying towards him, Hiashi stood his ground before he began giving his own rapid strikes, destroying each needle before they could hit him. Until he gave a final palm thrust forward, unleashing a powerful wave of chakra. 8 trigrams mountain crusher. Said Hiashi with a wave of chakra destroying all the remaining water needles, before continuing on towards Hitomi. 8 trigrams palm rotation. Hitomi said as she began spinning around, releasing chakra from all her tenketsu as it formed a barrier around her, protecting her from the wave of chakra. Though Hitomi had to release more chakra when her rotation started straining under the attack, before finally being able to lower it. Only to grunt slightly when Hiashi had closed the distance between them and struck her in the shoulder, sealing one of her tenketsu. You're within my range of division. 8 trigrams 64 palms. Hiashi said before he began striking Hitomi's tenketsu and sealing them. 2 palms. 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, 8 trigrams 64 palms. Said Hiashi, ending the strikes with a final one to Hitomi's stomach, sending the matriarch crashing back against the wall. Okay, I think I'm rustier than I thought. Hitomi thought while gritting her teeth as she stood up shakily. Knowing that she wasn't at her best after retiring when she was pregnant and then taking care of her daughters afterwards. But now seeing firsthand, she really wasn't in the best shape after not training for so many years. Surrender, now. Hiashi said, believing the duel was over with so many of her tenketsu sealed. With Hitomi having managed to stand up fully and stop shaking, before taking a deep breath while channeling some lightning chakra into her hand. Having worked on this specific technique in the event she ever ended up fighting another Haikyuu or someone that specialized in pressure points. Before shocking everyone when she suddenly struck herself in her stomach, sending lightning chakra coursing through her chakra network. Hiashi was especially shocked as he watched all of her sealed tenketsu be forced open all at once, with a perplexed smiling in satisfaction at feeling her chakra begin flowing normally again. Now where were we? Hitomi asked before charging Hiashi, snapping the Haikyuu clan head out of his shock, barely deflecting a palm strike to his chest. Gentle fist. Tenketsu needle. Said Hitomi delivering a 2-fingered strike to Hiashi's shoulder, striking a single tenketsu. Hiashi grunted and quickly jumped back, while feeling all the chakra flowing to his arm come to a halt from the blocked tenketsu. Let's see if you remember this. Wine style. 8 trigrams spiraling vacuum palm. Said Hitomi, channeling wind chakra into her vacuum palm, which she thrust towards Hiashi. But the compressed vacuum shell being much more powerful thanks to the wind chakra, with the additive effect of spinning around. Picking up a large amount of snow off the ground as it rushed towards Hiashi, who had no time to dodge the much faster and powerful technique. Grunting as he was blown back from the force of the jutsu. Or maybe this one. Ice style. 8 trigrams grid palm. Hitomi said before slamming her palm on the ground, creating a network of glowing white grids. Hiashi's eyes widening when he saw the grid rapidly spreading out towards him, mentally cursing that Hitomi was still skilled enough to mix her water and wind affinities to create ice. Before he quickly jumped back to avoid the grid, knowing he couldn't let it reach him. Only for this to prove to be a mistake as Hitomi instantly charged at him, delivering a palm strike straight to his abdomen. Bottom. Said Hitomi, sending chakra into Hiashi's body, making the clan head gasp in pain as he felt his entire body go numb for a few moments. It's over and now you're within my range of division. 8 trigrams 128 palms. Said Hitomi before she began rapidly striking half of his tenketsu. 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 palms. 64 palms. 8 trigrams 128 palms. Hitomi said, ending the strikes with one in Hiashi's abdomen, sending Hiashi flying back and crashing into the wall. Panting slightly, Hitomi looked at her now ex-husband, knowing he wouldn't be getting back up after that or capable of using chakra for a while. Having wanted to make sure when she hit him, he wouldn't be able to get back up. I was lucky it was winter, too. Hitomi thought, given her grid palm had just been a bluff, not even sure if it would have worked if it hit Hiashi. With how long it's been since she actually mixed her affinities together to use Heimerton Jutsu, Hitomi had been unsure if she'd be able to make it correctly. having planned on using the surrounding snow to better her chances at using it. And if it didn't work, it'd still give her the opening she needed to finish Hiashi off the old-fashioned way. It also helped that while she's grown rusty from lack of training, Hiashi's position as clan head along with the current peaceful state of things has made him grow complacent as well. Looking around at the gathered crowd, the Perplet saw that everyone was silent, with the main house members unsure what to do after seeing their leader be defeated. While the elders looked at Hiashi in disappointment, making her mentally scoff since they'd likely see it as an insult for him to have lost it all. All the branch members didn't say or do anything, but Hitomi could feel and see the satisfaction in some of their eyes at seeing Hiashi be taken down. Knowing she's won the fight, Hitomi moved past the crowd and back inside to get her daughters so they can move into their new home. Though stopped before reaching their rooms, smiling slightly as she turned towards a closed door. "Hinata, Hanabi, I know you both were watching. Come out," Hitomi said, causing the door to open as both her daughters stepped out while looking down at the ground. "So sorry, Kaka-san," Hinata said, since they'd been told to stay in their rooms during the duel, but Hanabi had convinced her to go watch. "Yeah, sorry Ka-san. But we really wanted to see you fight and you were really great. I didn't know you could combine your elemental affinities with the Jiken," said Hanabi while looking at Hitomi in amazement, making Hitomi smile and rub their heads affectionately. Though it took some convincing on Hanabi's end to get Hinata on board with it due to it being hard for her to hold a grudge. "It's fine girls, it must be surprising to see that your Ka-san is a fighter, and while I may be a little rusty, that doesn't mean I'm still not plenty strong," said Hitomi, with the twins nodding in agreement. "As for combining my elemental affinities with the Jiken, it's not exactly something you'd expect, but it's something I worked on. Wanting to add my own unique twist to our fighting style," Hitomi added. "Would we be able to learn to do that, Ka-san?" Hanabi asked, feeling excited at the chance to do the same thing, with even Hinata looking at their mother, hopefully. Maybe one day, since it's a pretty difficult technique to learn. Especially learning to combine affinities together, since it requires complete mastery and control of your elemental affinities, as well as understanding the ratio needed to form these sub-elements. Only a handful of people are capable of using elemental fusion, with most people needing to possess the Kekkei Genkai for said sub-element or have to resort to manipulating the existing elements around them. But for now, let's get you both packed since we'll be going to our new home now," Hitomi replied, only to be surprised when her daughters pulled out their bags from the rooms they were hiding in. I'll already have all of our STST stuff packed," said Hinata with Hanabi nodding in agreement. After years of physical and emotional abuse from their father, they were both eager at the chance to leave with their mother. "Yeah, even if we didn't know how strong you were Ka-san, we still believed you could win," Hanabi added, making the Perplet smile them, touched at their confidence in her. "Then I guess we're all ready to go then," stated Hitomi before she and her daughters outside. The three of them walking through the compound before arriving at a smaller, but still decently sized, house. More than big enough for the three of them, as well as being fully furnished. Going inside, Hinata and Hanabi looked around, seeing that it wasn't as large as the main building, it was still pretty big and more comfortable. "I hope you two don't mind sharing a room for a while, though there are separate ones if you prefer having your own," Hitomi said, with the sisters shaking their heads. "It's fine Kaka-san, idle, BN9 nice SHSH sharing a room," Hinata replied with a smile, liking the chance to share a room with Hanabi. "Yeah. Come on Nisan, let's go see our new room," said Hanabi while grabbing Hinata's hand, happy that they'll have the same room, even preferring it that way. Smiling as her daughters ran down the hall towards their room, Hitomi prepared to head to her own room as well, wanting to rest after her duel. "But starting tomorrow, I'm gonna have to get back into training," Hitomi thought, wanting to get back in shape after how close she was to nearly losing the duel. Knowing that even if she won and now have full custody of her daughters, there would still be problems to deal with, both inside and outside the village. And Hitomi would prefer it if she was prepared for anything that'd threaten her family. "I'll have to talk to Makoto about it too, especially since she's been retired even longer than I have," thought Hitomi, given how Makoto retired after getting pregnant with Itachi and raising him before then becoming pregnant with her daughter, Satsuki. The Perplet knowing it'll benefit both of them to start training again. Only for Hitomi to be pulled from her thoughts when she spotted a raven sitting on the windowsill with a message tied to its leg. Already knowing that Makoto was the one who sent it, with this being how they communicated with each other ever since they were barred from taking Naruto in. Given the chance they would likely be watched if they were seen frequently meeting with each other, it was better to communicate through messages. Going over to the raven and grabbing the message, Hitomi opened it and began reading what the Uchiha matriarch sent her. Only for her eyes to widen in shock and disbelief the more she read, before smirking at what this meant. "Looks like things are finally starting to look up," Hitomi thought, pocketing the message before heading to her room to rest for tomorrow. Time skip one day. Hokage's office. Who could have done this? Hiruzen thought, frowning as he looked over a report of how 3 boys were found buried under snow yesterday before being rushed to the hospital. Learning that they weren't only suffering from intense cases of frostbite and hypothermia, but looked to have beaten before being left in the snow. Showing signs of suffering bludgeoning damage that broke through their skin, even suffering a few fractured bones, showing whatever or whoever had hit them was very strong. Though one of the worst parts had to be that one of the boys actually had to have his genitalia and members surgically removed. Dear Kami, what kind of twisted monster would inflict such damage on a person? Thought Sarutobi, unable to help but cringe and shudder from the mental images and empathy-filled phantom pains at what the boy suffered. He may be a seasoned veteran and fought in 3 wars, but there are things you just don't ever want to see happen or think about. Before his attention turned towards the door when it opened, revealing Mikoto and Hitomi entering the office. Please seal and clear the room, Hokage-sama. Hitomi said with a pleasant smile, one that Mikoto mirrored, which already set the Hokage on edge. Even more so at a request to seal and clear the room, given how tense things have been between him and the 2 matriarchs. Ever since he refused to let them take Naruto in and forbid them from seeing him. But he also knew it'd be suicide for them to actually try attacking him, even if they worked together. Very well. Hiruzen replied warily before making a hand sign, signaling the Anbu to leave the room, before making another hand sign that caused seals to light up on the walls, door and windows, sealing the room from anyone trying to enter, leave, or listen in on them. What is it you both wish to speak to me about that required only us to be present? Questioned Hiruzen, with Mikoto's and Hitomi's smiles gaining an edge to them. Oh, you know, just a few important things. Mostly Naruto and our desire to adopt him. Mikoto replied. The fact that you forbid us from doing so, along with the restraining orders and ban you wrongfully put against us. Added Hitomi. As well as how not long after our first argument, all the files and documents listing me as Naruto's godmother just vanished. Isn't that just strange? Concluded Mikoto, both of them already knowing just what happened and who was likely responsible. It was for the good of the village. Sarutobi stated neutrally, having known what Dan's plan but did nothing to stop him. Yes, I'm sure the mummy tells himself that all time when he's plotting to murder you and anyone else in his way. Retorted Hitomi, annoyed that seemed to always be the same excuse to justify everything. We're not interested in your excuses or whatever bullshit reasoning you have. Because now you can't stop us from taking Naruto in, due to one very interesting fact I learned yesterday. Said Mikoto with her smile now being downright predatory, setting the Sandaime further on edge. What fact? Questioned the Hokage. Naruto has the Sharingan, a natural one to be exact. You know what that means, don't you? Mikoto revealed, feeling satisfied in the stunned and worried look on Hiruzen's face. But the Hokage knowing exactly what that meant, if Naruto truly had a natural Sharingan, it meant that he had Uchiha blood in his veins. Meaning there was nothing stopping Mikoto from claiming Naruto as a member of her clan and adopting him, not without him alienating himself and Konoha's overall governing body from the various clans that resided in the village. Should they ever learn that he prevented a child from being adopted into the clan they were descended from when they showed clear signs of possessing said clan's Kekkei Genkai. And how exactly did you learn about this? You are forbidden from going anywhere near Naruto at all, let alone close enough to look at his eyes. What proof would you even be able to provide? Hiruzen asked, regaining his cool and composure. Knowing that Mikoto wouldn't lie about such a thing, given how convoluted and easily exposed such a lie would be. But at the same time, held a good amount of skepticism that it was actually true with how she had no way of being able to get close enough to Naruto to see if he had a Sharingan. And hoping that it was some kind of mistake or she actually was lying. As if it was true and Naruto did have the Sharingan, then things would get very bad very fast with him being in Mikoto's and Hitomi's care. Oh, I haven't forgotten, but that doesn't apply to the rest of the Uchiha clan. Shisui was the one who told me after he stumbled onto Naruto with an active first stage Sharingan. Having seen it for himself and seen Naruto deactivated, even looking Naruto over with his own Sharingan to be sure. Mikoto replied with a smirk while the Hokage's worry grew. As for proof, simply call in Naruto himself and then we can all see for ourselves if he has the Sharingan or not. Hitomi said challengingly, knowing the Hokage will do so, as if he refuses he'd basically be admitting to not wanting to see they were telling the truth. Something Hiruzen was tempted to do, trying to think of a way out of this situation, only to realize that no matter what he tried, it'd only end badly for him. If he agreed and Naruto did have the Sharingan, then there's nothing he could do to stop Mikoto from adopting him. But if he refused, it'd be the same as admitting they were right but refused to see the truth. Very well, I'll have Naruto brought here so we can see for ourselves if he truly has the Sharingan. The restraining orders and my previous commands of forbidding you from interacting with him will be temporarily lifted. The results of this meeting will decide if it remains temporary or becomes permanent. Sarutobi said reluctantly before making a few hand signs, silently signaling one of the Anbu that were outside the window to go get Naruto. With Mikoto and Hitomi unable to deny how happy they were feeling at the chance to finally meet Naruto, already knowing they'll be leaving the office with him in their care. It wasn't long before there was a knock at the door, making the Hokage deactivate the seals with an Anbu opening the door, and Naruto, himself, walked in with a worried and unsure expression. The whiskered Ravenet having been worried when one of those animal masked ninjas showed up at his apartment, saying the Hokage wanted to see him. Why did you want to see me, old man? Naruto asked while looking at the Hokage, wondering if this was about what happened yesterday with the bullies. You have nothing to be worried about, Naruto. I merely called you here because these two ladies believe there is something special about you, and we wish to see if it's true. Said Hiruzen while resealing the room, making Naruto turn to look at Mikoto and Hitomi, surprised at seeing them, even more so with how they were smiling at him. Something he wasn't used to seeing, having only ever seen villagers give him dismissive and uncaring looks before they started glaring at him or completely ignoring him. Now seeing these two women actually smiling at him, Naruto wasn't sure how to react. Hello. Naruto said shyly before he was further surprised when Hitomi suddenly squealed and picked him up. Oh, you're just so adorable. Hitomi said, unable to help herself, wanting to make up for all the missed time, along with seeing how adorable Naruto's shy look was, and that it was made even more so, with his whiskers. While Naruto was now shocked, not expecting for one of the women to suddenly grab and hug him before he became embarrassment as she held him against her very large, his embarrassment growing when Hitomi kissed him on his forehead before setting him down on the ground. With the Uzumaki then looking at the other woman when she knelt down, still smiling at him. Sorry for that, Naruto, Hitomi can just be really affectionate. We've both also been looking forward to finally getting a chance to meet you, officially, anyway. The last time we saw you, you were still just a baby. Said Mikoto while ruffling Naruto's hair, surprising Naruto again. Why you both know my name? A and Ken knew me as a baby. Naruto asked in surprise, along with some hope that maybe they would have also known his parents. We did, and you were just as cute then as you are now. Mikoto replied, making the whiskered Ravenet blush at her words, while Hitomi knelt down next to him. I'm also happy to get the chance to thank you, Naruto, for helping my daughters yesterday. As well as apologize for KM and Natsu leaving you the way they did. Hitomi said with her smile turning into a frown for a moment. Your daughters? Oh. Those two girls. Said Naruto, with Hitomi nodding in response. That's right, Hinata and Hanabi. If you want, I can introduce you to them later, I'm sure they'd like to thank you personally for helping them. Offered Hitomi, with Naruto looking at her in surprise. You'll also be able to meet my own children, too. My son, Itachi, is a couple years older than you. But my daughter, Satsuki, is the same age as you and Hitomi's daughters. Mikoto added, eager to introduce her children to their godbrother. While Naruto looked between them in surprise and disbelief, along with still blushing at how nice and affectionate they were being to him. Really not used to being treated this way, the only others being Am and Tuchi at Ramen Ichiraku. Ahem. If you both wouldn't mind getting back to the matter at hand. Hiruzen said, not liking how they seemed so confident that Naruto had Sharingan and was growing more worried that it actually is true. Mikoto and Hitomi looked at the Sandaime in annoyance, before smiling at Naruto again. I guess he's right for once. Naruto, the reason we wanted to see you is because of something that happened yesterday. You met a member of my clan, Shisui Uchiha, and he told us that you have the Sharingan. Mikoto said, making Naruto tilt his head in confusion. What's the Sharingan? Naruto asked, only to see Mikoto's eyes turn crimson with 3 tomo circling the pupil. That's the Sharingan, Naruto. It's a ninjutsu unique to the Uchiha clan, and we believe that you had awakened it yesterday, from what Shisui had told Mikoto. We'd just like to confirm it by having you activate it. Replied Hitomi, with Naruto nodding slowly. My eyes did feel pretty weird before it went away, when I got home. But I don't know how to do it again. Said Naruto, not sure how he's supposed to activate the Sharingan if he did actually have it. It's alright, since you didn't even know you have it. Even for most Uchiha, it's normal for our eyes to feel strange when first awakening the Sharingan, getting blurry vision the first time. But it'll get easier the more you do it. As for how you activate it, all you need to do is channel chakra to your eyes. Said Mikoto. Though don't try and force it, it helps the first times when activating your ninjutsu to be relaxed and let it just flow naturally. Though like Mikoto said, the more you use it, the easier it'll be until you're able to instinctively turn it on. Hitomi added, with Naruto nodding in response at their words before closing his eyes and focusing on channeling chakra into his eyes. Mikoto, Hitomi and the Sandaime watched Naruto closely, waiting to see if he really did possess the Sharingan. Before Naruto finally opened his eyes with both matriarchs smiling triumphantly while, to Hiruzen's shock and dismay, Naruto's eyes were now crimson with a single tomo in both of them. Did I do it? Naruto asked, looking between them, blinking a few times when he saw flame-like auras around and inside them, unaware he's now seeing their chakra. Yes, you did. Good job, Naruto said Hitomi, smiling and ruffling his hair while Mikoto nodded in agreement. Yeah, you can stop channeling your chakra now, so you don't get tired from having it active for too long. Mikoto said, the whiskered Ravenet nodding before taking a few moments to deactivate his Sharingan. But the Uchiha matriarch then standing up and faced the Sandaime with a smirk, relishing in the look on his face at seeing he's now backed into a corner. Now, if you'd be so kind Hokage-sama, the adoption papers. Said Mikoto, causing Naruto's head to snap towards her in shock and hoped that he heard her correctly. Very well. Sarutobi said reluctantly, not liking it, but knew there was nothing he could do without making things worse than they already were, before pulling out the paperwork to let Mikoto adopt Naruto. The Ravenet smirk growing as she filled out all of the paper, getting Hiruzen to sign off on them as well, before sealing them away. I'll be sure to hold on to these until I can get some copies made to send back to you. After all, we wouldn't want to let such important documents be misplaced, would we? Mikoto said, with the Sandaime regarding them neutrally, not rising to the bait. Come on Naruto, we'll help you get packed and brought to Mikoto's home. Hitomi said as she and Mikoto left the office with Naruto to get him moved out of his apartment. Later, after helping Naruto pack up everything from his apartment, Mikoto and Hitomi took him back to the Uchiha compound. Something that did draw some looks from the other Uchiha, seeing their matriarch with the Hyuga matriarch and the Kikbijin Kriki. Though no one said anything, given the friendship between Mikoto and Hitomi, along with them having been close with Kushina Uzumaki. But them soon arriving at Mikoto's home, making Naruto look at it in amazement, even more so when they went inside. You live here? Naruto asked while looking at Mikoto, who nodded in response. That's right, with my family. Though at the moment my husband, Fugaku, isn't home. He's currently out doing work as chief of the Konoha military police force. While Itachi and Satsuki are out at the Uchiha clan training grounds, so you'll be able to meet them later when they get back. Mikoto said, with Naruto nodding with an unsure look on his face. As while Mikoto and Hitomi were both happy to see him, Naruto wasn't sure what to expect from their families, given how the rest of the village saw him. Before looking at Mikoto when she put a hand on his shoulder, with a reassuring smile on her face. Don't worry, you have nothing to be afraid of here, this is your home now. Said Mikoto, easing Naruto's worries a little. Now come on, let's get you settled into your room. Mikoto said, taking Naruto upstairs with Hitomi following after them. With Mikoto pointing to which rooms were Satsuki's and Itachi's, taking Naruto to a room next to Satsuki's own. Showing a rather sparse room with a bed, a dresser, a closet, and a low cabinet with 2 doors and empty bookshelves. It's not much, but we'll have time to fill it up once you get settled in. Said Mikoto, while Naruto looked around the room in amazement, hesitantly going inside, still processing everything that's happened in such a short amount of time. I'm sure you must be pretty overwhelmed, meeting us, learning you have the Sharingan, being adopted by Mikoto, and now having your room. But if you want to ask us anything, then don't be afraid to ask, no matter what it is. Hitomi said, smiling at the whiskered Ravenet, making Naruto turn towards them. Why? Why are you both being so nice to me? You said you met me as a baby and that you've wanted to meet me, but I've never seen either of you before. Why did you wait so long? And how did you know my name? Did you know my parents? Naruto asked, not wanting to sound ungrateful given how nice they've been to him, but he's still confused about why they were nice to him. His questions making both matriarchs frown before they sat down on the bed, motioning Naruto to sit between them, which he did so. It's not that we didn't want to meet you, Naruto. If we could have, we'd have taken you in after your parents had, unfortunately, died. But when we tried, the Hokage and the elders had forbid us from taking you in, even placing restraining orders against us, preventing us from interacting with you. Hitomi revealed, much to Naruto's shock and hurt. The old man he did that. Said Naruto, not believing the Hokage had known they wanted to take him in, but had forbid them from doing so or even interacting with him. Yes, which was also something he had no say in doing or right in interfering with, given that I was meant to be your legal guardian to begin with due to your parents naming me your godmother before you were born. Well, your godfather has to be out of the village most of the time due to being in charge of Konoha's spy network. Said Mikoto, making Naruto's head snap towards her in shock. Why you're my godmother? I have a godfather, Naruto asked in disbelief, not expecting to hear Mikoto was his godmother, nor having a godfather. Yes. Your mother was our best friend, she wanted me to take care of you if anything happened to her and your father. Well, your godfather was the Chunin sensei of myself, your father and Tucci. Mikoto replied, with the Uzumaki looking down since while he's happy to know he had a godmother, it's still sad knowing his parents are dead. While also being surprised to learn that his godfather wasn't just his father's sensei, but also the sensei of his godmother and Tucci. Like Hasan, who was she? Questioned Naruto, hoping to finally learn who his parents are. Her name was Kushina Uzumaki, and she was certainly someone very special, along with being known for her temper. The first time she entered the academy, she beat up this group of boys for making fun of her red hair and calling her tomato because of the color in her round face. It was honestly pretty funny watching her throw them around. Hitomi said, laughing at remembering what Kushina did to anyone who called her tomato, but when it came to the people she loved, she was sweetest person you could meet. Though she wasn't above knocking sense into their heads whenever they did something stupid, and I do mean knocking sense into them. She was also a troublemaker, pranking anyone that got on her nerves, usually in ways that'd make them terrified at just seeing her or paranoid of what she'll do next. Said Makoto with a small smile, knowing Kushina could be very creative and terrifying when it came to her pranks. While Naruto listened intently to their words, smiling happily and sadly at finally knowing his mother's name and learning more about her. Happy that he's finally getting the answers he's always wanted, but sad that he'll never get to meet her himself. She sounds pretty awesome. Naruto said, wiping his eyes when he started feeling tears in them, making Makoto and Hitomi smile sadly while nodding in agreement. Yeah, she really was. And one thing that you should know is that no matter what anyone says, Naruto, she loved you more than anything in the world. The day she found out she was pregnant was the happiest we'd ever seen her. She'd talk about how amazing you'd be in the academy, how you'd become one of the best ninja around when you graduated. Hitomi said with Makoto nodding in agreement while Naruto felt a few tears escape. She'd also worked for weeks on knitting a scarf just for you, something to always make sure you were safe and warm when she wasn't around. Added Makoto, while making a mental note to find where that scarf was, swearing she will kill the Hokage and elders if anything happened to it before Naruto could even get it. Thanks. Said Naruto, feeling overjoyed to know how much his mother loved him. What about my Tusan and godfather? Naruto asked, wanting to learn who his father was too, along with who his godfather is. Your father was Minato Namikaze the Yellow Flash and Yondaime Hokage, while your godfather was Jiraiya-sensei, one of Konoha's 3 legendary Sannin. Makoto revealed, neither of them planning to hide anything from Naruto, with Naruto's head immediately snapping towards her in shock. My Tita Tusan Hew wa was Tth the Yoyan Yondaime Hohok Hokage. My godfather was a Sannin, stuttered Naruto in complete shock to learn his father was the Yondaime Hokage, and while he didn't know much about the Sannin, he heard bits and pieces of them being 3 of the strongest ninja in Konoha and students of the Sandaime Hokage. That's right. He was another one of our classmates in the academy, though he was much more calm and reserved than Kushina. Though that didn't mean he didn't have a dorky side, as he enjoyed coming up with long and complicated names for his techniques. Replied Makoto as she shook her head fondly at the memories. You actually look a lot like him too, aside from the hair color, but you definitely have his eyes and the shape of Kushina's face. Hitomi said, making Naruto look up at his hair. Why do I have black hair? Naruto asked, given from what he's heard of the Yondaime, he had blonde hair and had just learned that his mother had red hair. The same reason you have the Sharingan, it turns out Minato had Uchiha blood in him. Something that no one was aware of, probably not even Minato himself. With you just managing to inherit those recessive traits more than him. Makoto said with Hitomi nodding in agreement, with Naruto being curious to know more about his apparent known ancestry. As for Jiraiya, like Makoto said, he's in charge of Konoha's spy network. Meaning that he has to travel a lot and partake in various A-S rank missions, which isn't really the best setting to raise a child. Hitomi said as she and Makoto began telling him more about his godfather. Not only that, but sensei is rather, let's say, eccentric. Not exactly the best role model and parental figure for a child. If you want, I can see about getting in contact with him so you can meet him. Makoto said, having no intention of cutting her former teacher out of his godson's life, along with being skeptical on the Hokage's claim that he wouldn't allow them to take care of Naruto, with him nodding and smiling softly at the chance to meet his godfather. Can you tell me more about them? Naruto asked hopefully, with both matriarchs smiling and nodding in response. The two telling Naruto everything they could about his parents and Jiraiya. Amazing the whiskered Ravenet to learn his mother was just as strong as his father, even being the one to help teach him Kenjutsu. The latter being something Naruto was eager to learn after hearing his parents and godfather were masters of it. Though he was shocked when they also told him about the Uzumaki clan, not believing he came from a clan that had their own village, only to be saddened to learn of their destruction. But still happy to learn he came from such a large clan. With Naruto feeling shock and joy the more he learned, but also anger at how everything was being kept from him by the Hokage. Along with the fact that the old man had kept his godmother and Hitomi from taking him in. Having thought the Sandaime had been nice and cared about him by giving him an apartment and a monthly stipend, only to learn how much he's betrayed him. I can't believe the old man didn't tell me any of this. Naruto muttered, feeling hurt and angry at Sarutobi's betrayal, making Makoto and Hitomi frown before putting a hand on Naruto's shoulders. We're sorry we weren't able to do anything for you sooner, Naruto. If we could have, we would have taken you in as soon as we could," said Hitomi, Mikoto nodding in agreement. "But we're here now and nothing's going to be changing that anytime soon. We promise that we'll always be here when you need us. And if there's ever anything you need, don't hesitate to ask us," Mikoto added, making Naruto look at them, feeling touched and happy to know they cared about him. "Why did the old man keep you both from adopting me, anyway?" Naruto asked, causing both matriarchs to frown before sighing, knowing he deserved to know. "It has to do with how everyone now treats you. I'm sure you've noticed a change from indifference and pity to hatred. That's because you're a Jinchuriki, Naruto, someone that has a Bijk sealed inside them. And you have the Kikbi sealed inside of you," revealed Hitomi, much to Naruto's shock as he went completely still. "I have the Kikbi sealed inside me," Naruto muttered shakily, not thinking that would be the reason everyone suddenly started hating him. "Yes, but don't think that makes you a monster or that you're the fox itself. You're merely the container, being no different than a storage scroll. We don't really have all the details of what happened, but Kushina had been the Kikbi Jinchuriki before you, something she told us after we earned her trust. You see, when a female Jinchuriki gives birth, their seal is weakened in the process. Whatever happened the night you were born, it led to the Kikbi escaping, and while we don't know for sure, we do believe that someone had somehow learned of where your parents were and ripped the Kikbi outer, leading to Minato sealing the Kikbi inside of you at the cost of his life while Kushina died due to the fact when a Bijk is extracted from its Jinchuriki, the Jinchuriki dies. Even in Uzumaki with their powerful life force would succumb to this, at best it will only give them a few moments after the extraction," Mikoto explained. "As for how this ties into the Hokage keeping us from taking you in. That's because it's known that the Sharingan is capable of controlling the Kikbi, so naturally it's believed Uchiha was the one who caused the Kikbi attack. With it not being helped by the fact that the Uchiha clan had been kept from helping in the battle and simply on evacuating the civilians. Also, Jinchuriki as a whole are meant to serve their village in its entirety, meaning they can't be shown favoring a single group or clan above the village. That's why the Hokage and elders kept us from taking you in. They thought the Uchiha clan would use you as a weapon and they couldn't have you favoring either of our clans above the village," said Hitomi, with Naruto looking down at this information. "They just wanted me as a weapon for themselves." Naruto muttered bitterly, angry that the Hokage was likely just manipulating him the entire time, offering him help to make him loyal to him and the village. "We can't say for certain about the Hokage, but the other elders, definitely," stated Mikoto, with Hitomi nodding in agreement. "They may not like the Hokage, but that didn't make him a bad man. Though they personally thought he was worse than that, he was a good man that just did nothing unless it was for the good of the village." With Naruto looking down while Mikoto and Hitomi held him close, the two swearing to make sure he'd never be used by anyone again. Later, once Naruto had calmed down from all the revelations of who he was and about his parents, Mikoto and Hitomi had begun helping him get settled into his new room and unpack everything. With him still asking to know more about his parents and godfather. Wanting to learn everything they could tell him, especially since they planned to introduce him to the latter, something the two were more than happy to do. Though once they were done unpacking, it wasn't long before Hitomi had to return home, leaving just Naruto and Mikoto. With the Uchiha matriarch taking Naruto downstairs to the kitchen where she began making him some ramen, wanting to make him something special. "Sorry if it's not as good as Ichiraku's, I'm not used to making ramen," Mikoto said while smiling sheepishly, having not made ramen very often, with Naruto taking a bite of the ramen, his eyes widening in surprise before he began eagerly devouring it. No, it's really great. It's just as good as Ichiraku's too," said Naruto, smiling at Mikoto before he continued eating the ramen. With the more he ate he started thinking it was even better than Ichiraku's. "Then I'll make sure to make more whenever you want some," said Mikoto while smiling at the whiskered Ravenet, ruffling his hair before kissing him on top of his head. The gesture making Naruto go still for a moment before looking at Mikoto smiling at him, before going back to his ramen, unable to deny the warm feeling spreading through him. Is this what having a Kasan is like that? Naruto thought, wondering if this is what having a mother's love is like. Mindscape, yes. Kushina repeated with an ecstatic and overjoyed grin on her face that finally her baby could get the home, love and family he should have had for years. While it had been a shock when she realized that Naruto had the Sharingan and possibly the Himten as well, if how he created the ice around his fists was anything to go by. It also made her relieved that it meant now the Hokage and elders could do nothing to stop Mikoto from adopting him. Feeling happy at her friend's refusal to give up on taking Naruto in. Along with being happy that they told him everything about her, Minato, Jiraiya, the Uzumaki clan, and him being a Jinchuriki. And soon I'll hopefully be able to meet Naruto myself, thought Kushina, having started getting the hang of her new body and power, hoping that soon she'll be able to reform her old body so she can meet Naruto in person. Real world, we're home, someone said, making Naruto look up from his ramen while Mikoto smiled at hearing Itachi, knowing Satsuki would be with him. I'm in the kitchen, Itachi, Satsuki. Come in here, there's someone I want you both to meet. Said Mikoto, eager to introduce them to their godbrother, while giving Naruto a reassuring smile after seeing his worried expression. Hearing the approaching footsteps, Naruto looked towards the entrance and saw who were his apparent godbrother and godsister. Having heard a few things about Satsuki and Itachi from Mikoto, so he'd be a little familiar with them. Despite being only 10 years old, Itachi was fairly tall for his age with fair skin, black eyes, under which were long pronounced tear troughs, jet black hair pulled back into a short low ponytail. His face was framed with center-parted bangs that extended to his chin. With him wearing a black high-collared shirt with the Uchiha clan symbol on the back, dark gray pants and bandages wrapped around his ankles. While Satsuki had onyx black eyes, pale skin, and long wavy black hair with a blue tint tied into twin tails. With her wearing a black high-collared shirt that lacked the Uchiha clan symbol on the back, white shorts, and bandages around her ankles. But the two's attention immediately turning towards Naruto when they saw him, with Itachi looking at Naruto curiously and in recognition, while Satsuki frowned at the Uzumaki. "Who's he, Kasan?" Satsuki asked, wondering who the stranger was, yelping slightly when Itachi poked her side. "Don't forget your manners, Satsuki. What's important is that he's a guest," Itachi said, with the young girl muttering under her breath. Hello, I'm Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto introduced while standing up and bowing to the two. "It's nice to meet you, Naruto, my name's Itachi. And there's no need to bow, alright," replied Itachi with a small smile and holding out his hand, which Naruto hesitantly shook before moving Satsuki forward. "Hi, I'm Satsuki Uchiha," Satsuki said, crossing her arms while giving Naruto a scrutinizing look before turning to her mother with a questioning look. "Itachi, Satsuki, Naruto is the son of a close friend of mine. Unfortunately, she and her husband died not long after he was born. But before they did, they named me his godmother, and just recently I was finally able to adopt him. So, Naruto isn't only your new adopted brother, but your godbrother as well," Mikoto revealed, surprising Satsuki and Itachi to hear Naruto is their godbrother. "Another brother?" Satsuki asked, now curious to learn she had another brother, a godbrother at that, who's also her age. "What changed, Kasan?" questioned Itachi, knowing who Naruto is and his status, making him wonder what happened to get the Hokage to let his mother adopt Naruto. "It turns out Naruto is much closer to us than I originally thought," said Mikoto before nodding to Naruto, wanting him to show them his Sharingan. Nodding slowly, Naruto closed his eyes before opening them after a few moments, shocking the siblings when they saw he had the Sharingan. "You have the Sharingan," said Satsuki in shock and disbelief, along with some jealousy that someone her age awakened the Sharingan even earlier than when Itachi awakened his. With it not helping that he probably wasn't even aware of it at all, if her mother didn't even know he had it. "That's right, it turns out Naruto's father had Uchiha ancestry, which has awakened in Naruto, making him a member of the Uchiha clan and allowing me to adopt him," Mikoto said while smiling at her children. "Well, it's surprising to see someone so young awaken the Sharingan, but it's also impressive as well. It just means you'll have that much more time to master it," Itachi stated, with Satsuki scowling and crossing her arms. "It's not that impressive, he probably didn't even mean to awaken it," Satsuki muttered, annoyed at how close her mother already seemed to Naruto and Itachi praising him for awakening the Sharingan. With Mikoto looking at her daughter with a frown before smirking as she knew a way to change her attitude in regards to her new brother. Going over to Satsuki, Mikoto leaned down and began whispering something in her ear. The young Uchiha frowning at what her mother was saying, only to perk up before smiling eagerly. "Okay, maybe it's a little cool, you have the Sharingan. But that doesn't mean you're an Uchiha yet. So that's why I'll be teaching you everything you'll need to know about being an Uchiha clan," Satsuki said with a smirk, making Naruto look at her in confusion. Thank you," Naruto said in an unsure manner, wondering what she meant by that. "Of course, after all, it's a big sister's duty to teach her new little brother," said Satsuki with her smirk growing, while Naruto looked at her in surprise before frowning in annoyance. "You aren't older than me. We're the same age," Naruto said, only for the young girl to pat him on the head. "Nope, I'm older than you, meaning I'm your Nisan and you are my Itato," Satsuki said, pleased that she's got a younger sibling now. Mikoto having told her that she was older than Naruto by a few months and that he'd need her to guide him on being part of the Uchiha clan. That it'd be a big responsibility only she could handle, and Satsuki had no intentions of letting her mother down. "No, it doesn't. You can't be older than someone who's the same age," retorted Naruto before looking at Mikoto and Itachi for help, only for them to smile in amusement. "Sorry Naruto, but it's true. Satsuki is older than you by a few months, so she is your new Nisan," Mikoto stated, pleased at managing to get Satsuki on board the idea of having Naruto be part of the family. "Indeed, and you should always listen to your older siblings. Isn't that right, Satsuki?" said Itachi, with Satsuki nodding in agreement. "That's right. You have to listen to your older sibling, said Satsuki, only to realize what else Itachi meant by that, making her scowl at her older brother when he laughed lightly. Alright, that's enough you three. Now come on, I made something different than what we usually have to help welcome Naruto into the family. Said Mikoto while pouring some ramen for Satsuki, Itachi and herself, as well as one for Fugaku when he got home. But the four sitting down and began eating, Satsuki and Itachi being surprised at first that it was ramen, but also enjoyed the meal. With it not being long when they heard the door open again, with Mikoto, Satsuki and Itachi knowing it's Fugaku. I'm home. Said Fugaku before heading into the kitchen, seeing the rest of his family and the new addition. Welcome home, Two-san. Itachi said while bowing slightly to his father. Two-san, look. Ka-san brought home a new brother for us, and he's our godbrother too. But I'm still older than him, Ka-san says it's my responsibility to tell him about being an Uchiha. Satsuki said, smirking at Naruto when he gave her an annoyed look, while Fugaku chuckled lightly and patted his daughter on the head. Then I'm sure he'll have the best teacher to help him get settled into the clan. Fugaku said before turning to Naruto who fidgeted in his seat, only to relax when Fugaku held out his hand towards him. And it's nice to meet you, Naruto. I've heard about you from Mikoto, and I'm glad to see she was finally able to bring you here. I've also heard that you've already awakened the Sharingan. Said Fugaku, surprising Naruto before he shook the clan head's hand. Yes sir. Naruto replied, with Fugaku sitting down at the table as well. Well, when you're finally settled in, what do you think about starting your training with Satsuki? Well, I'm busy with the police force, I'm sure Itachi and Mikoto would be able to help both of you with your training. Fugaku said, surprising Naruto again, while Itachi nodded in response. I should be able to help them when I have some free time. Shisui and Izumi may also be willing to train with us, too. Said Itachi, making Satsuki smile in excitement. Yeah. Shisui's really strong, but Itachi's still stronger. Satsuki said, excited at the chance to train with her brother and Shisui, along with having Naruto training alongside her. While the whiskered Ravenette looked at them in surprise before looking at Mikoto, who smiled and nodded at him. With Naruto slowly starting to smile as well, not expecting them to be this welcoming to him, but also happy that he finally has the chance to be part of a family. What were you thinking, Hiruzen? Letting the Jinchuriki be taken in by the Uchiha? You might as well give them control over all of Konoha, now. Danzm shouted as he, Kaharu, and Homura stood in the Hokage's office, discussing Naruto's adoption into the Uchiha clan and the fact he is an Uchiha. The Warhawk being even further angered at the fact that Sarutobi waited until the next day to inform them, rather than immediately telling them what happened yesterday. As the longer nothing was done, the deeper the Uchiha could sink their claws into the weapon. There was nothing to be done, Danzm. I saw for myself that Naruto possesses the Sharingan and is capable of activating and deactivating it, something only Uchiha are capable of. Retorted Hiruzen, narrowing his eyes at his old rival. As much as I don't like it, Hiruzen is right. With the proof of the boy's Uchiha heritage, we can do nothing to stop the Uchiha clan from taking him in, whether he's a Jinchuriki or not. If we did try interfering, it would only alienate the other ninja clans once they've learned that we would prevent them from taking in any descendants of their respective clans. Amura said, not liking the Kikbi Jinchuriki is now with the Uchiha clan, but knew they couldn't do anything about it. Yet, no one had known the Jinchuriki possessed the Sharingan. It would have been simple enough to seal away the Jinchuriki's eyes and keep it a secret, while any claims the Uchiha and Hyuga made would be passed off as lies and delusions. Said Danzm, believing it could have been prevented simply by sealing Naruto's Sharingan. And as a means to further antagonize the Uchiha clan if it seemed like they were trying to get control of the Kikbi. While also potentially helping to isolate the Hyuga clan as well, should they ever look to be a threat to the village. And what happens if there are those that suspect it to be true, especially if the seal is ever discovered or removed? That we kept the Uchiha clan from taking in one of their own. If other clans learned we not only prevented it but went out of our way to ensure no one learned the boy had the Sharingan. We would only be making the other clans lose faith in Konoha's government or worse, pushing them to side with the Uchiha clan. No matter what, there is nothing we can do, not without risking Konoha's stability in the long term. Kaharu said, making Danzm scowl, his anger growing as neither of his fellow elders seemed to understand the danger of the situation. Agreed. Whether we like it or not, Naruto is now under Mikoto's care and a part of the Uchiha clan. No doubt, she and Hitomi would have already revealed his heritage and status to him as well, not to mention just why they were unable to take him in after his parents' deaths. Meaning the best thing to do is make sure Naruto's own faith in Konoha is not completely lost, that is what's important. Said Hiruzen, having no doubt Mikoto and Hitomi have already told Naruto everything that was kept from him. But the Uzumaki's trust and faith in him and the village likely being shaken if it wasn't gone entirely, which really won't be good if Naruto doesn't care for the village. But also means nothing will done to further antagonize Naruto or the rest of the Uchiha clan. Is that clear? Dansum Saratobi said while looking at his former teammates sternly, knowing the last thing they needed was more trouble or further driving the Uchiha clan away. Yes, Hiruzen. Dansum said while gritting his teeth, furious that it seemed he was the only one speaking sense now. Along with the feeling of anger and disgust at how despite their best intentions to make sure it didn't happen, even snubbing Fugaku when they were deciding the Yondaime Hokage. Someone of Uchiha blood still managed to acquire the title of Hokage. Namikaze was already bad enough for following Hiruzen's weak beliefs, but the fact he was in Uchiha thought Dansum, unsure if he would have been able to restrain himself from trying to kill Minato if he knew he was in Uchiha. Though the Warhawk also had no intention of leaving things alone, refusing to let the Uchiha have control of the Kikbi or let those damn women think they can get away with this. Along with planning to speed up his plans to eliminate the Uchiha clan, knowing they've long outlived their usefulness. Moving on to another matter, I wish to nominate Itachi Uchiha to join the Anbu Black Ops. Said Dansum, after taking a few moments to rein in his anger and school his features, while Hiruzen, Hamura and Kaharu looked at him in disbelief. Itachi. The boy is only 10 years old, the minimum age requirement for anyone to join Anbu is at least 13, no matter how skilled they are. Kaharu said with a frown. Yet he's already proven time and time again to be an unrivaled genius, possessing talent few claim to have. Graduating from the academy at the age of 6 after only 4 months, almost a year after graduating he was mastering ninjutsu and claimed his missions were too easy, and now he's already advanced to the rank of Chunin after completing the Chunin exam single-handedly. His talent would be wasted in the regular ninja program, placing him within the Anbu would allow him to truly flourish and put his skill to use in defending the village. Explained Dansum, unable to deny Itachi as a once-in-a-lifetime prodigy. Plus, he had intended to recommend Itachi join Anbu once he turned 11, knowing the Uchiha heir's strong desire to maintain peace would be put to good use in protecting Konoha. As well as making him a useful pawn in eliminating the rest of his cursed clan. Which he now had to do much earlier if he hoped to get the weapon away from the Uchiha clan before they can try influencing it. Though now he refused to take any chances, with Dansum also planning to get into contact with Madara, having provided him with the location where Kushina would give birth once she went into labor. Planning to utilize their temporary alliance to provide Fugaku with the information needed to get him on board with the idea of the coup d'etat. And another useful pawn in ensuring nothing leads back to me. Thought Dansum, thinking of Yushiro Uchiha, one of the main supporters of the idea of a coup. Knowing he'd be a useful pawn to pass on the information to Fugaku, given how Dansum knew that Yushiro was a coward and wouldn't want to take any actual responsibility in coup himself. Which makes him the perfect pawn to take the information from Madara and pass it to Fugaku. Still, even with his talent and abilities, he's still merely a boy. Would it not be better to wait and see how he handles things against older and more experienced opponents first, to see if he can handle the difficult missions required of the Anbu? Hamura said, preferring if they could wait and see more of Itachi's abilities to know if he'd fit in the Anbu and had the right personality. You all bring up several good points, despite his skills, Itachi is still only a child and the burden of being in the Anbu may be too much for him. But Dansum is also correct that he would be wasted remaining in the regular ninja program when he's proven time and time again to be a model shinobi. As for having him in Anbu, it would be a boon to have such a member working to defend the village from threats. Saratobi said, reluctant to agree with Dansum about putting Itachi in the Anbu before looking at the Warhawk suspiciously. Yet it's rather odd, with how you were so against the Uchiha clan taking in Naruto, only to suddenly suggest the clan heir for such a position. Stated Hiruzen, wondering what angle he's playing with his suggestion. I merely recognize the fact that Itachi would be of better use to the village in the Anbu, rather than as a regular ninja. But it's also a means to keep the Uchiha clan from using the Kikbi against Konoha. By having their clan heir serving directly under the Hokage, it will keep them in line if they wish for his continued safety. And I'm sure we can all agree, it was most likely that an Uchiha had snuck out of the village and summoned the Kikbi. With the death of the Shodai and near extinction of the Uzumaki clan, the only method of controlling and summoning the Kikbi is the Sharingan. At least with Itachi in the Anbu, the rest of the Uchiha clan would be hesitant to use the Kikbi at the cost of his life. Dansum explained, with Hiruzen frowning at his explanation, but also couldn't fault the logic. Very well, I will have the paperwork filled out to transfer Itachi to the Anbu. Though given his age, we will need to falsify his registry slightly to make it be that he is 13. Saratobi said, making Dansum nod in agreement, pleased the beginning of his plan was going smoothly. With Naruto. Meanwhile, within his new room in the Uchiha clan compound, Naruto had begun waking up. Only for the whiskered Ravenet to be confused when took in his surroundings. This isn't my apartment. Naruto thought while looking around the room, wondering how he ended up here, before his eyes widened as he remembered what happened yesterday. Being called to the Hokage's office, meeting Mikoto and Hitomi, learning he had the Sharingan, Mikoto adopting him, and everything they told him about his parents and clan. then meeting Makoto's family as well and feeling welcomed. It wasn't a dream. Thought Naruto, unsure how to feel about everything that happened yesterday really happening. While he was happy to now be part of a family and finally learning who his parents were, it's still something that Naruto wasn't used to. Shaking his head, Naruto got out of bed before getting dressed and ready for the day, going downstairs once he'd finished. Finding that Makoto, Satsuki, Itachi and Fugaku were already awake and having breakfast before they turned towards Naruto, after hearing him walk in. "It's about time you woke up. I was gonna wake you up myself, but Kasan wouldn't let me," Satsuki said in annoyance. Now, Satsuki, don't be rude. I'm sure Naruto needed his rest after everything that happened yesterday. I also seem to recall you sleeping in much longer after choosing to stay out training," said Makoto, making Satsuki blush lightly in embarrassment. Sorry if I made you wait," Naruto said, only for them to wave it off. "No need to apologize, there's no harm done after all. Besides, you're up now, so just take a seat and have some breakfast," said Fugaku, with Naruto slowly going over and sitting down, with Makoto setting a filled plate in front of him. Looking at the food for a few moments, Naruto hesitantly took a bite before he immediately began digging in after seeing it tasted really good. With it not being long before his plate was empty, much to his disappointment, only to blush in embarrassment when he saw everyone looking at him in amusement. "So sorry," muttered Naruto, making the four Uchiha laugh lightly. "There's no need to say sorry, if you're hungry, then just eat as quickly as you like. As long as you don't eat too much, where you'll get sick," Itachi said, Makoto nodding in agreement. "Itachi's right, you're obviously hungry, so don't worry how fast you finish. But do try to take it more slowly," said Makoto before filling Naruto's plate again, surprising the Uzumaki that he could actually get a second helping. Thank you," Naruto said before he began eating a slower pace, now wanting to enjoy it more than eating it all at once. Though Naruto couldn't help but notice the headband Itachi was now wearing, having not seen him wearing it last night, surprising him again that Itachi was already a ninja. "Something wrong, Naruto?" Itachi asked, noticing his staring, making Naruto flinch slightly. No, nothing's wrong. I just saw your headband. Don't you have to graduate the academy to get one?" questioned Naruto, given how Makoto told him that Itachi was only 10 years old and he's heard that students enter the academy when they're 6 and graduate when they're 12. "That's because I've already graduated the academy, I'm actually a Chunin after entering the last Chunin exams," Itachi revealed, shocking Naruto that he's already a Chunin. Boo, but how? You're only 10, how did you graduate the academy and how are you already a Chunin?" Naruto said in disbelief. "That's because Nai-san's really strong. He graduated early to become a ninja and he's been training me to be strong, too," said Satsuki with a smirk. It's true, Itachi enrolled into the academy when he was 6 and proved to be incredibly talented. Talented enough that his teachers all agreed that he was more than qualified to become a genin. Makoto said smiling at her oldest son. But even then, he was already training at Chunin level, mastering ninjutsu far above that of a genin. And before you awakened your Sharingan, Itachi was the youngest Uchiha to awaken it when he was 8, along with mastering it the same year. Fugaku added, proud of how quickly Itachi was rising through the ranks. "I just focus on my studies and keep up with my training. There are other members of our clan stronger than me, like Shisui and both of you, Kasan, Tusan," said Itachi, knowing Shisui and his parents were much stronger than him. With Naruto being shocked and awed to hear how strong Itachi is, that he was able to graduate from the academy in less than a year, along with unlocking and mastering his Sharingan in a year as well. Plus, hearing that Makoto, Fugaku and that Shisui guy he met were stronger than Itachi. "Is that why you're chief of the military police force? Because you're the strongest in the clan?" Naruto asked, turning towards Fugaku, with the clan head pausing for a moment before shaking his head. "No, being the strongest in the clan doesn't mean you'll be chief of the police force, that usually falls to the clan head at the time before being passed down to one of their children. Or sometimes someone else will be chosen, so the clan head doesn't have their time divided between running both the Uchiha clan and police force," explained Fugaku, confusing the Uzumaki. "What does the police force chief do?" asked Naruto, curious to learn more about the organization his newly found clan operated. Usually they just decide the patrol routes for the members of the police force, go over and fill out reports, settle disputes between members, and go out to patrol the village themselves. We're also the ones that help maintain the laws inside the village, being the shinobi that watch the other shinobi," Fugaku replied. "So like the Hokage," Naruto stated, seeing the position being like the Hokage. Both of them had their own subordinates, they kept the peace in the village, they were both leaders, and looked after those under them. And yes, I suppose in a way it is like being Hokage, but just for the Uchiha clan. Though the Hokage has the final say in what issues we can interfere in," said Fugaku, knowing they were limited in what they could do, depending on what the Hokage said. such as being unable to arrest Anbu, given they served directly under the Hokage. Something that did lead to some issues between the Anbu and police force. Oh. Are you both going to be part of the police force? Naruto asked, looking at Satsuki and Itachi, wondering if they were going to be part of the military police force. No, I desire to join the regular ninja forces, believing I could be of better use to the village by taking missions outside its walls, rather than remaining within. Replied Itachi. I don't know if I'll join, I want to be a ninja so I can get stronger, not stay in the village all the time. Satsuki said, unsure if she'll join the police force when she's older, only knowing that she wanted to test herself against powerful opponents outside the village to grow stronger and surpass her brother. The same goes for you, Naruto. You won't be expected to join the military police force either, just because you're now part of the Uchiha clan. It'll be your choice alone on what you decide to do. Stated Mikoto, wanting her children to choose their own paths and make their own decisions, rather than have someone else make it for them. With Naruto looking at her in surprise, before looking at the others, with Fugaku nodding in agreement with his wife. The whiskered Ravenet smiling at this, liking to have the chance to make his own choice still, even if he's now part of a clan. The family continued eating along with making small talk, before they all soon finished, with Fugaku saying his goodbyes before leaving for the police force headquarters. Come on, Naruto. I'm gonna show you around the compound and make sure you know where everything is. Satsuki said, grabbing Naruto's wrist and pulling him towards the door, wanting to get started on teaching him everything about the Uchiha clan. Don't stay out too long, we'll still need to get started on your training today, you too. Said Mikoto, with Naruto and Satsuki nodding in response before they left. I'll go find Shisui and Izumi to see if they can help us today or another time. Itachi said, standing up, with the Uchiha matriarch nodding at this, as they soon left as well to get things ready for Naruto's and Satsuki's training. Along with getting back into shape, myself. Mikoto thought, remembering what Hitomi told her yesterday about getting back into shape after they retired. Knowing her friend was right and it'd be good for them to start training again. As even if they were finally able to take Naruto in, they knew that wouldn't be the end of their problems and it'd be better for them to be fully prepared for anything. With Naruto and Satsuki. After leaving their home, Satsuki had begun taking Naruto all around the Uchiha compound, pointing out where everything was and introducing him to some of the other Uchiha clan members. And this is Uchiha Senbei. They have the best senbei in the entire village and everyone knows it. Satsuki said when they arrived at a small bakery where Naruto saw and two older adults outside the shop before they saw both children. Well, if it isn't Satsuki. Is this a visit or are you going off to train with Itachi again? Asked a woman, smiling at the two kids, which Satsuki returned. Hi auntie, and we're gonna go train, later. But right now, I'm showing Naruto around the compound. Satsuki replied while pulling Naruto forward, with the Uzumaki stumbling slightly at the force of her pull. Hello, it's nice to meet you both. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Introduced Naruto, with both adults smiling at him. Oh yeah, I think we saw you yesterday with Mikoto. It's nice to officially meet you Naruto, I'm Teaki Uchiha, this is my wife, Yuruchi. Teaki said. He's my new Itato after Kasen adopted him, along with also being part of the Uchiha clan when he awakened the Sharingan. Revealed Satsuki, surprising the older Uchiha. Really? That's certainly an achievement. And if you're now part of the clan, then welcome to the family, Naruto. Yuruchi said, smiling at the whiskered Ravenet. Thank you ma'am. Naruto replied, before Teaki got up and went inside the shop, coming out after a few moments with two small bags. Here you both are, Samanajiri and Senbei. Consider it a welcoming gift. Teaki said, with Satsuki taking a bag with a smile, while Naruto was surprised but took the other bag as well. Thanks uncle. But we need to keep going, I still have to show Naruto around and tell him everything he needs to know. Satsuki said, grabbing Naruto again, with Teaki and Yuruchi laughing lightly at the sight. Of course Satsuki, but make sure to stop by again. And you listen to your big sister, Naruto, she's a smart girl. Said Yuruchi while waving at the two. We're the same age. Said Naruto in annoyance that Satsuki was making people think she's older than him. I'm still older. Now stop slacking off, we have a lot to go over if we still want to start training today. Satsuki said with a smirk, making Naruto look at her in annoyance before glancing back at Uchiha Senbei. Hey Satsuki, were they actually your aunt and uncle? Naruto asked, since they didn't seem to really look like either Mikoto or Fugaku. No, but that's what I call them because we're all part of the same clan, so that means we're all family. Even if we're not directly related, we're family. Replied Satsuki, surprising Naruto before he looked down. Sounds nice. Naruto muttered, wondering what it would have been like to actually grow up as part of a clan from the beginning, whether it be the Uzumaki clan or Uchiha clan. Being able to know everyone and have everyone know who you are, smiling and greeting without a problem, even referring to some as if they were family without being related to them. Though Naruto looked up when Satsuki's hand moved down to his and held it, finding the Ravenet smiling at him. That includes you now, too. Even if we're not related, you're still my new brother, and even if you weren't adopted by Kasan, you'd still be my god brother too. So either way, you are family to us, and soon everyone else in the clan will see you as family too. Satsuki said, surprising Naruto again before he smiled slightly at her. Thanks Satsuki, you actually are pretty smart. Replied Naruto, feeling touched and happy at her words that she considered him family. Only for his smile to drop when she smirked at him. Of course I'm smart, after all, I'm your niece-san. So obviously, I'm way smarter and more mature. It's why I was picked as your mentor in educating you. Stated Satsuki, with a Uzumaki looking at her blankly before she started dragging him along, again. Now come on, no more wasting time. You need to get caught up on everything you need to know, and there's still a lot to cover. Satsuki said as she continued showing him around the compound. Later, and this is the last stop, the Naka Shrine. This is where meetings are held by Tusan and the rest of the clan, along with where we honor fallen clan members. Satsuki said as they arrived at the Naka Shrine after she'd shown Naruto everything in the main compound. Is that everything, then? Naruto asked tiredly, given how Satsuki had made sure to show him every inch of the compound, telling him about every store and shop inside, introducing him to everyone they came across. Only having taken a short break to eat the onigiri and senbei they got from Teaki and Yuruchi before she went back to showing him around. Even worse, when she began asking him random questions on the places they visited, making sure he remembered everything she told him. And if he didn't give her an answer she liked, then Satsuki would simply tell him everything again. But the Jinchuriki hoping that it was finally over, with the Naka Shrine having been the last location to visit. Oh no, this is just the last stop in the village, there are still plenty of other places to show you. But we'd need to wait to visit those with Kasan or Nai-san, since they're all outside the village. But I can still tell you about them. Satsuki replied, knowing there were some places outside the village that belonged to the Uchiha clan. What else is there? Said Naruto in disbelief, not thinking there was so much to learn about being part of a clan. Well, there are a couple hideouts and strongholds that the Uchiha clan used to use as bases during the Warring States era. Some of them are hidden pretty well too, making them difficult to find where they are unless you know where to look. I know about one that's supposed to be located on a terraced mountain with large forests on each of the levels. We also store a lot of weapons and soraku that we used to resupply the shops we have here. Said Satsuki, confusing Naruto at the latter part. What soraku? Asked Naruto, having never heard of such a place before. It's an abandoned city, though I heard Tusan and Nai-san say that it's also inhabited by some black market dealers. But the Uchiha clan have a large weapons store there, run by Nekaba and her granddaughter, Tamaki. I've been there before when Itachi went there to restock the clan with weapons. I mostly just spent time with Tamaki and the Neneko that live there. Until I began filling out the pawn encyclopedia. Satsuki explained with a smirk at the end. Pawn encyclopedia? Naruto asked, even further confused. It's a game that Nai-san and I made, filling up a book with all different kinds of cat paw prints from all different kinds of cats. And we've collected dozens of them already. Satsuki said proudly of how many paw prints they've gotten, while Naruto raised a brow. That doesn't seem too hard. Said Naruto, only to flinch when Satsuki flicked him. Maybe to you, but a lot of those paw prints came from Neneko, and they're really difficult to catch, being faster and more agile than even regular cats. They can even make their claws sharper with chakra, some are even able to cast Jinjutsu. And for cats, having their paw prints taken is the same as humans being photographed naked, it's embarrassing for them, making it even more difficult to catch them. So it's not just a game, but also good training to be able to catch all the different cats. Satsuki said, crossing her arms in annoyance, having worked hard to catch so many different cats before. While Naruto looked at her in amazement, upon now hearing how difficult it'd be to get a cat's paw print, especially in Neneko's print. And could see how it would be really good training, needing to catch cats, avoiding their attacks, and holding them down long enough to get their paw prints. That actually does sound really cool. Naruto said, making the female Ravenet smirk. Of course. It's not easy, but I make sure to train long and hard to be able to catch any Neneko we go after. Replied Satsuki, only for Naruto to shake his head. That's not what I meant. Sure, it's cool that you're able to collect paw prints like that from Neneko, but I meant that it's cool that you must be really strong to do it. Even if you don't have the Sharingan awakened, you're already very strong, a lot stronger than me. Said Naruto, looking down upon seeing the difference between him and Satsuki. He couldn't even handle a few bullies, not really remembering how he even managed to beat them. While Satsuki was able to chase after ninja cats that can use chakra and Jinjutsu, not doubting she would have been able to beat the bullies without a problem. Oh, thanks. Satsuki said, smiling at her godbrother, touched to hear that he thought she was strong even without the Sharingan, before putting a hand on his shoulder after noticing his expression. Hey, don't feel bad, you must be pretty strong already too, if you were able to awaken the Sharingan sooner than even Itachi. Plus, that means it'll be really powerful once you master it. Besides, you'll also be training with Kasan, Itachi, Shisui and Izumi, and they're all really strong too, so I'm sure you'll catch up in no time. Said Satsuki, making Naruto look at her with a small smile, feeling better at her words. Thanks Satsuki. Naruto replied, with the Uchiha nodding in response. No problem, after all, it's a big sister's duty to cheer up her Itato when he's sad. And, of course, I'll still be the stronger one between the two of us, since it'll also be my duty to look after you when you're in trouble. Satsuki said with a smirk, Naruto's smile falling as he looked at her blankly again. Seriously, how long are you gonna hold that over my head for? We're the same age, does a difference by a few months really matter? Naruto asked, only for Satsuki's smirk to widen as she patted him on the head. Don't worry Itato, Ni-san will always be here to help when you need her. Cooed Satsuki before laughing when Naruto smacked her hand away with an annoyed expression. Later, Naruto and Satsuki stayed at the Naka shrine a little longer to rest themselves, wanting to make sure they were fully prepared for their training. Before they left for the Uchiha clan's training grounds to meet Mikoto and Itachi, along with Shisui and Izumi. With the two arriving to see Mikoto, Itachi, Shisui, and a fourth person that Naruto didn't recognize, but guessed was Izumi. Izumi had pale skin, long brown hair with bangs framing her face, and onyx eyes, with a mole under her right eye. She was wearing a sleeveless, high-collared purple shirt with the Uchiha clan symbol on the back, baggy blue pants, blue ninja sandals, a shuriken hostler on her right leg, a red armband on her left arm, and a long purple fingerless glove that ran nearly the length of her right arm. Naruto, Satsuki. We're glad to see you both made it. Mikoto said, smiling at the two children as they went over to the four Uchiha, with Shisui and Izumi smiling at Naruto. Hey, nice to see you again, Naruto. It's good to see you're now officially part of the clan. Said Shisui, with Naruto nodding at the older Uchiha. Yeah. Thank you for before, with helping me get back home and for Naruto said, not sure how to say it, given how he was only adopted by Mikoto, because Shisui told her about his Sharingan. Don't worry about, I'm just glad I could help a fellow clansman, even one who didn't know it at the time. And I suppose now we can have an official introduction too. I'm Shisui Uchiha, also known as Shisui the Teleporter. Shisui introduced with a smile, while Naruto looked at him in surprise. The teleporter? Naruto asked, wondering what kind of nickname that was. Shisui's one of the fastest in the Uchiha clan, along with having unmatched mastery of the Shunshin Jutsu. Being able to simply fade out of existence, leaving no evidence behind that he was there or any indication of where he moved to. He's even able to leave after images behind that are tangible and strike with actual force. Mikoto explained, much to Naruto's amazement. Wow, you're that fast. Said Naruto, not thinking anyone could move that fast without something like his father's Hiraishin Jutsu. Yeah, but it wasn't easy getting to that level, and despite the nickname, I don't actually teleport, it just looks like I do. I've just worked really hard to master the Shunshin Jutsu. Said Shisui, knowing there were still plenty of ninja that were faster than him, like Might Guy and Kakashi Haddock. Naruto still thought it was really cool that Shisui was able to move fast enough, it looked like he was teleporting. Wondering if he'd be able to become fast enough to do that before he looked at Izumi, who walked up and smiled at him and Satsuki. It's nice to see you again, Satsuki, and it's nice to meet you as well, Naruto. Itachi and Mikoto were telling me and Shisui about you before you arrived. Izumi said. Hello Izumi, it's nice meeting you, too. Are you a ninja too? Naruto asked, wondering if Izumi graduated early like Itachi did, only for the brunette to laugh sheepishly. No, I'm not a ninja, not yet anyway. But I am at the top of my classes in the academy. In fact, my teachers are even considering letting me graduate a year early with the progress I've made. Izumi said, knowing that while she's improved, she's nowhere close to Itachi's or Shisui's levels. Izumi's also unlocked the Sharingan too. Even earlier than Itachi, she unlocked it when she was 5. Said Satsuki, making Naruto look at her in surprise. You unlocked the Sharingan when you were 5 too? Questioned Naruto, given how Itachi was supposed to have been the youngest Uchiha to awaken his Sharingan, but now learning that Izumi unlocked hers first. Well, technically, I did unlock my Sharingan when I was 5, but I never really had that much chakra, so I couldn't actually use it. If I kept it active too long, I'd faint. Though recently, I've managed to get my chakra reserves high enough to where I can use it a little longer. Izumi replied while activating her Sharingan, which had 3 tomos in it. Oh, well, I still think it's cool you awakened it that soon. Said Naruto, making Izumi smile brightly at him before hugging the Uzumaki. Oh, thanks. You're as sweet as Mikoto said you were. Izumi said, making Naruto blush in embarrassment. I think you might have some competition, Itachi. Stated Shisui, smirking at his friend, with Itachi looking at him blankly. Haha, you are just hilarious, Shisui. Itachi muttered while rolling his eyes as Izumi letting Naruto go before Makoto stepped forward. Alright, now let's begin today's training. First, we'll be having both of you working on your chakra control, something that will be very important later on. Then we'll be moving on to some basic ninjutsu and taijutsu, but before that we'll be testing your elemental affinities. Makoto said, making Naruto and Satsuki look at her in confusion. What are elemental affinities, Ka-san? Satsuki asked, only for Makoto to pull out 2 pieces of paper and hand them to both children. This is called chakra paper, it's used to help test your elemental affinities. All you need to do is channel chakra into them and it'll reveal what affinities you both have. Said Makoto, with the two still looking confused but nodded as they channeled chakra into them. But Satsuki's paper wrinkling before burning to ash, while Naruto's paper was sliced in half with one of the halves burning to ash, like Satsuki's. Though, what really surprised the older Uchiha was that the other half of Naruto's paper became damp with bits of ice starting to form on it. What does that mean? Naruto said, not sure what the results meant. It means that Satsuki has a lightning affinity and a fire affinity, while you have an affinity for wind, fire and water, along with having the Himten Kekkei Genkai from the looks of things. Wind affinities being pretty rare here in the land of fire, though you're probably the first known case of someone having the Himten Kekkei here. But luckily for both of you, I happen to have lightning and wind affinities as well, while Itachi has his own water affinity. Plus since all Uchiha are skilled in fire-style ninjutsu, so you and Satsuki will have a lot to learn from for your fire affinities. Shisui explained, much to their excitement, though Satsuki couldn't help but feel a bit jealous that Naruto had a second Kekkei Genkai. As for your Himten, Hitomi can probably help you with that. Given how she was able to recreate the ice style to the point where she didn't need pre-existing ice and snow, despite not having the Himten herself, with a very rare and advanced form of nature manipulation, known as elemental fusion. Makoto said, surprising Naruto that Hitomi could use ice-style jutsu, but was also happy that there was someone who could help him master his Kekkei Genkai. One other thing is that we'll be helping you understand the basics of your Sharingan, Naruto. Making it easier for you to use it in combat when the time comes, along with helping you master it. Satsuki, well you haven't awakened yours yet. You should still observe, as it will be useful information for when you awaken your own. Added Itachi, with Naruto and Satsuki nodding in response. Now, let's get started, shall we? Makoto said with a smile, eager to start training her children. Military Police Force Headquarters. Meanwhile, within his office in the police force headquarters, Fugaku was frowning as he looked over several documents that Yushiro Uchiha has just given him. With Yushiro standing across from the clan head, waiting for him to look over everything. Well? Yushiro said impatiently, once Fugaku finished looking everything over, with Fugaku setting it aside and folding his hands together in front of him. How did you get this information? Questioned Fugaku, wanting to know how Yushiro got his hands on the documents. Documents that if they were true, would have had him convinced to go along with the planned coup d'etat. As even with his desire for a peaceful solution, Fugaku couldn't do nothing with this new information. Does it matter, where? I know for a fact it's true, and it's only further proof of how the village has been using and controlling the Uchiha clan since Konoha was founded. Now it's time we take back what our clan helped build. Yushiro said, not wanting to reveal he was given the information by the masked Uchiha. But Fugaku frowning at the lack of answer before shaking his head. You expect me to take any of this as fact when you won't even tell me where you got it from? For all you or I could know, this could all be falsified by someone that wants the Uchiha clan to go to war with Konoha. Fugaku said, making Yushiro scowl in annoyance. So what? It doesn't change the fact that we're already under suspicion for causing the Kikbi attack. Hell, even before the Kikbi attack, this village and those leading it has made it clear that it doesn't trust us, and it never will. We've been moved to the outskirts of the village, away from everyone else. This isn't even a compound, it might as well be a cage that we're all locked in, waiting for the Hokage and those elders to decide to wipe us all out. Retorted Yushiro in anger. Perhaps, but should that day ever come, the Uchiha clan will not be seen as the instigators. We will continue doing what we are right now in enforcing the laws and arresting those that break them. More importantly is the fact, Makoto has finally gotten something she's wanted for 5 years, and I won't do anything that would endanger my family. Said Fugaku, knowing how happy Makoto was to finally be able to take in her godson. He's even started growing fond of Naruto as well, seeing how curious and inquisitive he is about learning new things. So while at one time, Fugaku would have likely agreed with the coup after getting this new information. Now he's more willing to try for a peaceful route as to not endanger his family. While Yushiro looked at him in anger and disgust that he'd be willing to continue letting the Uchiha clan wither away because of Makoto and the Kikbijin Kriki. If anything, they should be using that brat and the beast inside him as their personal attack dog. So much for wicked eyes Fugaku. All I see is a soft and weak fool, bending to the whims of a single woman. It shouldn't matter what Makoto says or wants, you don't care about her, and she doesn't care about you. If it wasn't because of your arranged marriage, she'd still be chasing after Namikaze, while you would be chasing that Inuzuka bitch. Ishiro shouted, disgusted at the idea of Uchiha marrying outside of the clan. Only for him to recoil when Fugaku closed his eyes before they snapped open, showing his Sharingan, which glowed slightly as he gave Yushiro a dark warning look. Be very careful the way you speak, otherwise you'll see just how wicked my eyes truly are. Fugaku warned, refusing to let him speak about Tsume that way, who at one point would have been the person he chose to marry instead if he hadn't been arranged to marry Makoto. And perhaps Makoto and I don't love each other, but she is still a friend and the mother of my children. And I will do nothing to endanger my family, nor will I lead this clan in some foolhardy rebellion that will more likely get us all killed. So, this will be the last time I say this, Yushiro. The coup does not happen, and should I find out that you and anyone else are planning to go through with it behind my back, I'll kill you all, myself. Understood. Said Fugaku darkly, making Yushiro pale and gulp before nodding shakily. Why yes, Fugaku-sama. Yushiro replied, bowing his head. Good, now get out. Fugaku said, with Yushiro eagerly exiting the office with his tail between his legs. Damn him. Damn him to the deepest pit in hell. Yushiro thought, furious he couldn't convince Fugaku to get on board with the coup, knowing if he wasn't on board, then the majority of the clan wouldn't be either. Meaning if he wanted the coup to happen, Yushiro knew he'd need to find someone to help convince enough of the clan to go through with it. Already planning to find a way to get into contact with the masked Uchiha, knowing he'd be able to help. Later Uchiha training ground. Okay, I think that's enough for today. Said Makoto, looking at Naruto and Satsuki who were panting tiredly from their training. You two did pretty good, most kids would have been done after the first 2 hours, the first time doing the surface walking exercise. Shisui stated, impressed at their determination given how they were running low on chakra from doing the surface walking exercise, not to mention the overall exhaustion. Yeah, you both were really great today and you're only going to get better. Said Izumi, smiling at the two kids. Though, what was even more impressive was the progress they made once the exercise was broken down and explained to them. They honestly wouldn't be surprised if Naruto and Satsuki end up mastering the tree walker exercise in just a few days. Indeed. But also take this as an important lesson, never train to the point where you're exhausted and unable to even move, as such a thing could leave you defenseless and open to be attacked. And outside the village, that is always a high possibility. Itachi added, not wanting them to risk leaving themselves defenseless by going overboard with their training. Thanks for the advice. Said Satsuki, feeling tired from everything they did today. Well, if you two aren't too tired, then I was going to take you both out for lunch, maybe Ichiraku. Makoto said with a sly smile when she saw Naruto instantly perk up. Ichiraku? Naruto asked, with Makoto nodding in response. Yep, and I'm sure that they'll also have some sliced tomatoes as well, Satsuki. Said Makoto, with Satsuki now perking up this time, knowing her daughter loved tomatoes. I'm not tired. Naruto and Satsuki both said at the same time, making the older Uchiha laugh slightly before Makoto turning towards Itachi, Shisui, and Izumi. Would you three like to join us? Questioned Makoto, only for them to shake their heads, since they still had other business to take care of before exchanging goodbyes and taking their leave. With Naruto, Satsuki, and Makoto going to the village, the Uchiha matriarch glaring at anyone that tried glaring at her and her children. Making several villagers quickly walk away, not wanting to risk getting on the bad side of one of the demon queens. Before the trio soon arrived at Ramen Ichiraku and stepped inside, finding Tucci and his daughter Ayam behind the counter. Well now, there's a face I haven't seen in a long time. Makoto Uchiha finally decided to stop by again. Tucci said, smiling at seeing his old teammate, which Makoto returned before Ayam quickly ran around the counter and hugged the woman. Hi auntie. Ayam said, smiling happily up at Makoto, while Satsuki looked surprised at the familiarity they had with her mother, with Naruto not being surprised after learning Tucci was her old teammate along with his father's. It's nice to see you again Tucci and sorry for not coming by before, but a lot's happened. And it's always great to see you again, Ayam, you've certainly gotten bigger. Said Makoto as she smiled at the two. Ah-san, how do you know them? Satsuki asked curiously, making Tucci and Ayam turn to her and Naruto, before smiling at the latter. Naruto. It's really great to see you too. Ayam said, hugging Naruto as well, making the Uzumaki blush lightly with a small smile. You too Ayam Nichan, Tucci. Naruto replied returning the hug. And I'm guessing this is Satsuki, right? She looks just like you. Said Tucci, smiling at the younger female Uchiha, while Makoto nodded in response. Yeah, she really does. And Satsuki, Tucci is actually my old teammate from when I was a genin, before he retired. While Ayam, I've met a few times before, even when I was still pregnant with you. Makoto said, surprising Satsuki that she's meeting one of her mother's old teammates. She also told me that both of you were my 2 cents teammates too," said Naruto looking at Tucci, with Satsuki being surprised again to hear this, along with Tucci before he nodded in response. "That's right, and it's good you know who they were now, Naruto. It's a shame what happened to them," Tucci said, shaking his head. "We were Kasen's teammate," Satsuki stated, changing the subject when she saw Naruto's downcast expression at the mention of his parents. "Yeah. 2-cent was teammates with Aunt Mikoto and Naruto's father, and I got to meet them too," replied AM with a smile, having always liked it when her father's old teammates came into the shop. "That's right, Mikoto and Naruto's parents were some of our best customers when we first opened up. But you'd be surprised to hear that your mom didn't always look like this. Back in the academy in our Genin days, she was quite the tomboy. Most of the kids back then even believed she was a boy, with the exception of those that really knew her," Gucci said with a smirk, while Mikoto making her look at him in good-natured annoyance. "We were all just jealous because I looked good no matter how I looked. Especially given the fact I still had girls jazzing me even after they learned I was a girl," stated Mikoto with a smirk, while Naruto and Satsuki looked at her in disbelief before shaking it off as they all sat down. Tucci, what did you do as a ninja?" Satsuki asked, curious of what Tucci specialized in as a ninja, with Naruto also being curious. "I specialized in Taijutsu and lightning style ninjutsu and was pretty damn good at both of them. I even made plans to try and recreate the lightning style techniques that the Raikages were known for, given how all of them were seen as some of the best lightning style and ninjutsu users in the world. I figured I should try to aim to surpass them. But I had to retire before I was able to try," Gucci replied, solemnly. "Why did you retire?" questioned Naruto, only for Mikoto and AM to gain solemn looks as well, before Tucci looked at Mikoto. "Is it alright if I take them in the back?" Tucci said, making Mikoto frown, knowing what he wanted to do and wasn't sure about it. But at the same time she couldn't keep Naruto and Satsuki shielded from the dangers of the ninja lifestyle forever, no matter how much she wanted to. "Alright." Mikoto replied reluctantly, figuring it'd be better they learn now than on the battlefield, which could cost them their lives. Nodding at this, Tucci motioned Naruto and Satsuki to follow him to the back of the shop, with both children being confused at the strange request. "Normally, you don't really retire from being a ninja. Even when you're older than me, you'd still try to be of some use to your village. The only reason a ninja really retires is when they have to. Now what you're going to see isn't pretty," warned Tucci, with Naruto and Satsuki nodding slowly in response. Only for them to be shocked, horrified, and feeling physically sick when Tucci removed his shirt, showing to still be in somewhat decent shape despite letting himself go after retiring. But what made them react was that his chest, abdomen, upper arms, shoulders and back were all covered in brutal gashes and scars. "I got most of these near the end of the Third Shinobi World War. Me and a platoon of ninja I was leading at the time were ambushed. Out of 100 ninja, only 20 survived, some even thought I wouldn't survive either with the injuries I got. But the medics that survived were able to keep me alive, but at the cost of my career," Gucci explained before putting his shirt back on, putting his hands on their shoulders. "Now I'm not telling you all this to scare you or tell you not to become ninja, it's so you both understand. Being a ninja isn't all fun and games or about saving the day, it's a dangerous life. One where you'll even need to commit acts that'll conflict with your own moral compass, both if you want to survive or because your superior officer had ordered you to. And it's better you learn about the dangers now, rather than in a situation you wouldn't make it back from," said Tucci, with Naruto and Satsuki nodding shakily as they returned to the front of the shop. "Are you two alright?" Mikoto asked softly. "We're fine, K-ka-ka-ka-sen," replied Satsuki, feeling shaken at what they saw and heard. "Why yeah. Beep boo, but I'm not really hungry anymore," Naruto said with Satsuki nodding in agreement, neither of them having much of an appetite anymore, with Mikoto nodding in understanding. "Okay. Sorry to leave so soon Tucci, AM. But hopefully we'll be back again another time," said Mikoto, with the father-daughter duo nodding in response. "It's fine and take care, you three. And if you ever need any tips for training, I'd be more than willing to give them a few pointers," Tucci replied, with Mikoto nodding in thanks. "I'll hold you to that," Mikoto stated, knowing firsthand that in his prime Tucci was a powerful Taijutsu specialist, having been Guy's predecessor as Konoha's first and foremost Taijutsu master and specialist. Before the trio left the stand with Naruto and Satsuki staying quiet, still processing what they saw and heard. "Do you both want to talk about it?" Mikoto asked, looking at her children, with the two looking up at her. How do people choose to become ninja if something like that could happen? Or if they could die?" questioned Satsuki, with Mikoto only being able to shrug in response. "There's not really a definitive answer for that, as everyone has different motivations for being ninja, whether it's because they're from a ninja clan, their parents are ninja, they have a dream that can only be accomplished by becoming a ninja, desiring to serve their village, and so many other reasons," replied Mikoto. Should we still become ninja? Naruto asked, wondering if they should still be ninja if there's a chance something like that could happen. If that's what you both want, the choice is entirely yours to make on if you still want to be ninja or anything else. This way you'll at least better understand how dangerous the lifestyle is. But it's important to never become complacent and always keep pushing yourselves to be stronger, as there will always be another person stronger than you, and most importantly, both of you will need to look out for and protect each other. Promise me that if you do choose to become ninja, you'll protect each other," said Mikoto, with Naruto and Satsuki immediately nodding in response. "I promise, we'll always look out for and protect each other," Naruto replied, having just gotten a family and refused to let anything happen that's take it away. "Yeah, so will I, and I was going to anyway since it's my responsibility as his Nin-san to protect Naruto," added Satsuki while smirking at Naruto, who looked at her in annoyance, much to Mikoto's amusement. "I'm glad to hear that," Mikoto stated, happy knowing her children will take care of each other once they become ninja. Before the trio stopped when they saw Hitomi walking towards them along with Hinata and Hanabi, with Naruto looking at them in recognition. With Hitomi smiling at her daughters and nudging them forward. "Ichihi, hello, it's nice to see you again, and to me meet you too. I'm Hinata Hikage," Hinata said with a small bow. "And I'm Hanabi Hikage, we're twins," said Hanabi while greeting Naruto and Satsuki with a smirk as she waved to them. "Yeah, I remember you too, I'm glad you're both alright. And I'm Naruto Uzumaki, it's nice to meet you both," replied Naruto with a smile, with Satsuki smiling slightly at the sisters as well. "And I'm his Nin-san, Satsuki Uchiha," Satsuki said, much to Naruto's annoyance. "It's nice to meet you, officially, Naruto, and you as well, Satsuki. We also wish to thank you for coming to our defense the other day against those bullies. Even if you had no reason to help us you still did, and we wanted to thank you in person," Hanabi said, Hinata nodding in agreement. We also wanted to apologize for our old sea caretakers, leaving you alone, too. We're GG glad to see you're alright, though," added Hinata as she smiled shyly at the Uzumaki, which Naruto returned. "It's fine, really. You two were fine and that's all I cared about, besides, I paid those jerks back for picking on you both," Naruto replied, making Hanabi smirk. "Good. They deserved it for picking on two innocent girls and then attacking our savior," stated Hanabi, pleased to know Naruto was able to get payback on the bullies for them and himself. As long as YUT didn't get in trouble," Hinata said, not wanting Naruto to have gotten in trouble because of them. "So did you two want to come play with us?" Satsuki asked, making the twins smile and nod as the four children quickly ran off together, with Mikoto and Hitomi following behind them. "So, I take it things went well after I left," stated Hitomi, smiling at seeing how happy Naruto now looked, much better than he did before. "They did, and hopefully they'll stay that way," Mikoto replied, smiling as well as they watched the four children run off together. Naruto, Satsuki, Hinata and Hanabi soon arrived at the park, where they decided to play a game of hide and seek with the addition that the seeker would need to also tag the hiders in order to catch them, allowing the hiders the chance to escape the seeker and continue hiding until they were caught. But the whiskered Ravenet having been chosen as the first seeker, while Satsuki, Hinata, and Hanabi went to hide. The game lasted a few hours, giving each of them a chance to be the seeker, before they all sat down to rest. "Ha! I still have the best time in finding all of you," Satsuki said with a smirk, having managed to find and tag both Naruto and the Hikage twins the fastest, much to their annoyance, mostly Naruto's and Hanabi's. "I was close to beating you all. I would have won too if I could use my Byakugan," retorted Hanabi, muttering the last part to herself, while Satsuki's smirk widened. "Don't be jealous, it's not my fault I'm just that good. Or maybe you all are just too slow to escape," Satsuki said teasingly. "You only won because you have more training in chasing people thanks to those cats you chase all the time," Naruto said while crossing his arms, annoyed that he was the first one Satsuki managed to find and tag. Chasing cats?" Hinata asked in confusion, which Hanabi shared as they looked at Naruto and Satsuki. "Yeah, Satsuki told me that she and Itachi, her older brother, made a game about chasing different kinds of cats in Naneko to get their paw prints for something called a paw encyclopedia," replied Naruto, surprising the sisters. "Our brother," Satsuki said, correcting Naruto's statement on Itachi only being her brother, before looking at Hinata and Hanabi. "But yeah, I've just gotten good at chasing targets since Naneko are much faster and more agile than any of us. So it's natural I'd be the best chaser, not that it would have made any difference in me being the winner," stated Satsuki. "It would have if Hinata and I could use our Byakugan," Hanabi said in annoyance, swearing that next time she'll be the winner. That wouldn't really be fair, Hanabi. You using our Byakugan to look through things to find them," said Hinata, not wanting to cheat by using their Byakugan to simply look through everything to find where they'd be hiding. You can see through things with your Byakugan? Naruto asked curiously, not really knowing what the Byakugan could do, outside that it simply made the Hyuga clan's eyes look different than anyone else's. Yep. The Byakugan lets us see through any object, including a person's body to see their chakra and tenketsu, which we can strike and close with our Jiken. It also gives us a complete 360 view of our surroundings, and the more we train it, the farther we're able to see. With it helping that our Byakugan are already really strong. Hanabi said proudly, surprising Naruto to learn what the Byakugan could do. Mine eye isn't really that strong though, Hanabi can already see further than I can. Said Hinata, knowing her sister's Byakugan is stronger than hers. Well, the Sharingan is cooler, gives us a lot more abilities. We can cast Jinjutsu, predict an opponent's movements, copy Jutsu, and see chakra with it too. Even if it's not to the same extent as the Byakugan with the latter. Satsuki said while crossing her arms with a smirk, believing the Sharingan is stronger than the Byakugan, with Hanabi frowning before realizing what the Uchiha said. Wait, you said us, do you have the Sharingan? Hanabi asked, turning towards Naruto, with Hinata doing the same, both of them being surprised when he nodded. Yeah, I do have the Sharingan, apparently. I actually awakened it when I helped you two against those bullies, after said Naruto before trailing off, not wanting to say when they left, knowing they didn't leave willing. Oh, sorry. Hinata said while looking down, still feeling bad at how they were unable to help Naruto, with the Uzumaki waving it off. It's fine, really. Besides, it worked out in the end. Naruto replied, given how if he didn't awaken the Sharingan, then Mikoto never would have been able to adopt him. Yeah. Well, I'm angry to hear about some bullies beating up my Itato, he's now living with us. And next time anyone tries picking on him, they'll have to go through me. Satsuki said with a smirk, much to Naruto's annoyance. We're the same age. A few months doesn't make you older than me. Said Naruto, only for Satsuki to pat him on the head. There, Itato. You just let Ni-san handle things if any more bullies try picking on you, okay? Satsuki said with her smirk growing as Naruto tried smacking her hand away, only for her to pull it back before he could. You know, Naruto, being the younger sibling isn't so bad. Hanabi said while mentally smirking, with Naruto looking at her in confusion. How? Questioned Naruto as the brunette wrapped an arm around Hinata before pulling her close. Simple, well, Hinata's technically older, I'm the one who usually looks out for her and helps her whenever she's in trouble. Something, I'm sure you'll have to do plenty of times whenever Satsuki gets into trouble, as well. Said Hanabi, causing Satsuki to freeze at her words, while Naruto perked up. Really? Naruto said, now being more interested, especially if he's able to hold it over Satsuki's head that he has to get her out of trouble. It's true. Hinata said while looking away, given how she did get into trouble a few times with Hanabi helping her get out of it, much to her embarrassment given what happened some of those times. Oh yeah. Like one time, when Hinata had convinced Natsu to help sneak her out of the compound, to get her, Hanabi said with a smirk on her face, before Hinata quickly covered her mouth with a growing blush. Hanabi. Why you, PR promised Enna never to tell anyone. Said Hinata, realizing what her sister was going to reveal, only to pull back on reflex when Hanabi licked the palm of her hand. She got Natsu to sneak her out of the compound to one of her favorite bakeries in the village, to get her over a dozen cinnamon buns, which Hinata ate all at once. Said Hanabi as her smirk turned into a grin, even as Hinata desperately tried getting her to stop. Hanabi, please. Hinata said while giving her twin a pleading look. That's actually the same face she used on Natsu to get her to help. But then Hinata ended up getting sick from eating all the cinnamon buns and needed to be carried back to the compound. And she was lucky no one saw them, except for me, anyway. Ni-san could barely move for 3 days after that and couldn't even look at a cinnamon roll for an entire month without getting sick. But that doesn't stop her from doing the same thing whenever she gets a chance. Hanabi said, much to Hinata's embarrassment while Naruto and Satsuki laughed lightly. You're so mean, Hanabi. Hinata exclaimed, with Hanabi merely smiling at her sister before hugging her. It's just part of the job, Ni-san. And besides, at least I didn't tell them about the time you accidentally activated your Byakugan inside the girl's hot spring in the compound and saw, said Hanabi, only for Hinata to cover her mouth in embarrassment and mortification. Don't. Said Hinata, refusing to let anyone learn about that incident, having been unable to look at any of the female Hyuga without getting embarrassed for 6 months, her own mother included. Which wasn't helped by Hanabi's constant teasing the entire time. See Naruto? Being the younger sibling isn't so bad, especially once you start getting plenty of dirt on your older siblings. Hanabi said, with Naruto nodding in agreement while Satsuki's amusement faded away. Yeah, I guess you're right. Isn't that right, Ni-san? Naruto said while smirking at Satsuki, eager for when he'll have embarrassing things to reveal about her. I don't like her. Satsuki mentally stated in a dry manner while looking at Hanabi, knowing she's just taken away any advantage she had over Naruto as the older sibling. with it not being helped by the fact that the lavender-eyed brunette was now looking at her with a smirk. Who's the winner, now? Thought Hanabi, pleased at getting back at Satsuki for winning the game by taking away her enjoyment at being the older sibling. Meanwhile, Mikoto and Hitomi were sitting next to each other, watching their children, smiling at seeing them talking and laughing before they got up and went back to playing. While noticing how Satsuki seemed to be chasing after Hanabi in particular, as well. So, anything interesting happening since you took Naruto home yesterday? Hitomi asked while looking at the Uchiha matriarch. Nothing much, though I'm happy with how accepting Satsuki, Itachi and Fugaku are of Naruto and how warmly they've welcomed him. With Satsuki being especially happy when I told her that Naruto's technically her little brother and it's her responsibility to teach him what it means to be part of the clan. Replied Mikoto, making Hitomi giggle lightly. I'm sure she was happy about that. But probably not so much anymore with how she's chasing Hanabi. Stated Hitomi in amusement, knowing her youngest daughter has likely told Naruto about the benefits of being the youngest sibling. Probably. We also got started on Naruto's and Satsuki's training today, with Itachi, Shisui and Izumi helping to train them as well. It also seems that Naruto doesn't just have the Sharingan since after testing their elemental affinities, Naruto also showed to have the Himten Kekkei Genkai. Mikoto revealed, with Hitomi looking at her in surprise. The Himten too? Questioned Hitomi, not expecting for Naruto to also have the Himten in addition to the Sharingan. Yeah, it was a shock for us as well. It's also strange that Minato was descended not just from the Uchiha clan, but possibly the Yuki clan as well, yet never showed any sign of having the Sharingan or the Himten. Especially given how, while he did have a wind affinity, he had an affinity for fire and lightning rather than water. Said Mikoto, the Haikyuu matriarch nodding in agreement. It's possible that they could have skipped him and instead awakened in Naruto. Hitomi said, knowing that some Kekkei Genkai could skip a generation or two in clans, remaining dormant in one person, but awakening in their children or even their grandchildren. Even in the Haikyuu clan, while they all inherit the Byakugan, it's possible that some Haikyuu don't awaken its actual power. True. By the way, how are things going with the Haikyuu clan? Mikoto asked, wondering how things were going with the Haikyuu clan after she divorced Hiashi and gained custody of her daughters. With Hitomi sighing and shaking her head, showing the Ravenet that things weren't going as good as she hoped they would. It's only been a day, and the Haikyuu elders are already kicking up a huge fuss over Hiashi weakening the main house in the eyes of the branch family. Not only with how I basically took away both heiresses, but also defeated him in front of nearly the entire clan. Replied Hitomi, relieved that she no longer had to deal with the elders after divorcing Hiashi. Do you think they may try something? Questioned Mikoto with a concerned frown, only for the perplet to shake her head again. No, their pride may be damaged, but they aren't stupid. I won, fair and square, so they can't touch me or my daughters. Not unless they want to further weaken themselves by making it seem that the main house's word means nothing. Besides, I'm sure they'll have their hands full in getting a new heir. Hitomi said, knowing she and her daughters didn't have to worry about the elders trying anything against them. Haikyuu compound. Meanwhile, at the Haikyuu compound, Hiashi was meeting with the Haikyuu elders after recovering from his match against Hitomi. Are you satisfied now, Hiashi? Because of you and that farce of a duel, not only are both heiresses now completely out of our grasp, but now the branch family and even some members of the main house will be questioning the leadership of the clan. Said one of the elders as they all frowned at Hiashi. Indeed, we'll be lucky if Hitomi even allows any of us to be in the same room as her daughters, let alone the idea of them still being trained by you. Another elder added, with Hiashi clenching his jaw but kept his cool. It was a mistake, I had underestimated Hitomi's abilities. Believing that after retiring, her skills had deteriorated enough to where I could defeat her. But it won't happen again. Stated Hiashi, believing he could challenge Hitomi again, only for his father, the head elder, to shake his head and frown bitterly at his son. You'll do no such thing. Doing so would only make us look like even bigger fools in the eyes of the clan. And it wasn't just Hitomi's abilities that you've underestimated, you also overestimated your own deteriorating abilities. You were once considered in the same league as Minato Namikaze, Orochimaru and Fugaku Uchiha, even being a candidate for the position of Hokage alongside the former two. And now look at you, defeated and humiliated. Said the head elder, bitterly at seeing how his son's own abilities have fallen from what they used to be. But now it no longer matters, what matters is ensuring there is still an heir to the Haikyuu clan. The head elder stated, making Hiashi frown at what it could mean. Am I to remarry then? Hiashi asked, guessing they'd have him marry again to sire another child, only for the elders to shake their heads. No, there are unfortunately no suitable candidates within the clan for you to have another child with. Which means we will have to use the other method of ensuring there is a clan heir. Said an elder, with Hiashi's frown turning into a confused one. What other method? Questioned Hiashi, having never heard of any other method for deciding on a clan heir. At times when the clan head is unable to provide an heir, or if any of their children are incapable of taking the title to succeed them, then any relatives, preferably nieces or nephews, from the branch family, are allowed to ascend to the main house to fill that role. And as it happens, Niji meets the requirements perfectly, even better with how you and his Ashi were identical twins, practically making him your son, biologically speaking, already. Another elder replied, surprising the Haika clan head. This method isn't well known due to how rarely a situation has ever risen to where it was needed, with this being one such situation. Said the head elder before continuing. It helps that Niji has already proving himself to be a once-in-a-lifetime prodigy. When he's older, he could be seen as our equivalent to Itachi Uchiha. If it wasn't for his status of being in the branch family, then it's likely he would be at a much higher level than he already is. Added the head elder, knowing his grandson would make for a good clan heir. Yes, Niji is indeed skilled. Yet if we go through with this, make him the clan heir, it may prove dangerous. He's already made his resentment towards the main house quite clear. Hiashi stated, agreeing that his nephew would be a good candidate for clan heir, but it may also be their own undoing. Given his resentment of the main house for his Ashi's death, removing his caged bird seal may be dangerous, especially with how he'd gain full control of the Haika clan later on. Do you still have the letter that his Ashi left for his son? The head elder asked. I do. Replied Hiashi, having kept the letter safe and waited for the day he could give it to Niji. Good, give it to him. It may not be enough to quell his hatred, but at the very least it could direct it away from the main house. Said the head elder with Hiashi reluctantly nodding, not wanting to use his brother's last words to his son in such a way, but knew it needed to be done for the good of the Haika clan. With the motion soon being passed and agreed upon that Niji's caged bird seal would be removed and he'd be elevated to the position of clan heir. Though unknown to the elders and Hiashi, someone had overheard their discussion before quickly leaving to avoid being discovered. I need to inform Hitomi-sama. Thought Natsu in worry at what she just heard. Having been fulfilling her new duties after being dismissed as Hinata's and Hanabi's caretaker, along with patrolling the compound. Only to overhear the elders in a meeting with Hiashi, which Natsu knew she shouldn't be listening in on, but stayed after hearing the matter of who the clan heir would be. Before growing worried when it was decided that Niji would be the new heir. And while, normally, something like this would make any branch family member happy and excited to learn that one of their own would soon be the clan heir and future head of the Haika clan. Natsu, though, was only worried about what it'd mean for Hinata and Hanabi. Knowing how Niji held them responsible for his father's death, making her worried of what he may do to them as clan heir and future clan head, maybe even brand them with the caged bird seal or their own future children. With Natsu knowing she needed to tell Hitomi about this decision to make sure she and her daughters would be informed and prepared. Plus, the Green had hoped it'd be a good start in getting back into their good graces by making sure they're kept aware of what's happening in the clan. With Naruto, Hitomi. Can I ask you something? Naruto said after going over to Mikoto and Hitomi, with the latter smiling at him as he came over. Yes, Naruto. Said Hitomi, curious of what he wanted to ask her. I wanted to ask you about you being able to use Himten ninjutsu. Questioned Naruto, with how Mikoto told him that she was capable of using Himten ninjutsu, along with Hinata and Hanabi, telling him and Satsuki about her duel against Hiashi as well. You want to know if I can help you learn to use your own Himten, right? Hitomi stated, surprising Naruto that she already knew. Mikoto just told me that you have the Himten Kekkei Genkai, so I had a feeling you'd come ask me about my own Himten as well. Said Hitomi. And would you be able to help me? Naruto asked, with a perplexed smiling and nodding in response. I'd be happy to help train you to master your Himten, Naruto. Though, I'm sure you'll be better at using Himten than I ever could be. Hitomi replied, confusing the whiskered Ravenet, along with Satsuki, Hinata and Hanabi when they came over. How could he be better than you, Kasan? Hanabi asked, wondering how Naruto could be better with Himten than her mother. It's because that while elemental fusion is powerful, it also has limitations to what it can do and who can use it. Revealed Hitomi. Like what? Questioned Satsuki, having been interested in the idea of elemental fusion when Hinata and Hanabi told them about it after learning about it from Hitomi. For starters, it can only be learned by a person that has an affinity for yin and yang, two elemental natures outside of the main five that can't be revealed with chakra paper. But it's easy to see when someone is using yin and yang with the techniques they use. For example, the Nara clan all have an affinity for yin, which is what lets them manipulate their shadows for various techniques. While the Akimichi clan uses yang style to manipulate the size and shape of their bodies. Jinjutsu are also another example of yin style, given how they create forms and objects out of nothing, but lack yang style, which breathes life into things they create. Leaving them as just mere illusions. Hitomi explained, looking at the children to make sure they're following along. So you can use yin and yang, Kasan? Hinata asked, with Hitomi nodding in response. That's right, which is why I'm able to use elemental fusion as yin and yang. While, secondly, people that have Kekkei Genkai for certain sub-elements, in this case Heimten, don't rely on elemental fusion due to them having a natural, instinctual and biological affinity for those nature transformations. Making it so they could create things like ice and snow out of nothing, whereas I freeze and manipulate pre-existing water molecules. In addition to that, those who are descended from the Yuki clan, the clan that Naruto and his father are most likely descended from in addition to the Uchiha clan, are able to make it so their ice is cold enough to be immune to most fire-style ninjutsu. Something I can't do with my own Heimten ninjutsu unless it's within a colder climate to supplement it, and even then, it won't be to the same extent. Said Hitomi, much to the amazement of the children. So, well my Heimten is powerful, Naruto's own will be far superior once he gets a good grasp of it, as well as being much more versatile due to him being suited for Heimten ninjutsu on a genetic level. It's the reason why my ice style. 8 trigrams grid palms is a blend of the Jiken, Heimten ninjutsu and some Fukinjutsu that Kushina, Naruto's Kasan, had taught me. Hitomi said, the children being amazed at this to know how strong Naruto's Heimten will be, with Satsuki again feeling some jealousy at her godbrother's future abilities. It just means I'll have to get even stronger with my fire and lightning. Satsuki thought, refusing to let Naruto leave her behind and show that she'll be just as powerful, even more so once she awakens her Sharingan. I think that's enough of a lesson for today, besides, it's starting to get late as well. Mikoto stated, seeing how the sun was now starting to set, surprising the kids at how late it was. Agreed, it's time to go home. But first, you all need to promise to keep Naruto's Heimten a secret, you can't tell anyone that he has a second Kekkei Genkai. Hitomi said sternly, with Mikoto nodding in agreement. She's right, having one Kekkei Genkai is one thing. But if it's revealed that Naruto has both the Sharingan and Heimten, it may lead to some people trying to take advantage of him. So, it'd be best that no one else learns he has it. Added Mikoto, wanting it to just be them, Itachi, Shisui, Izumi and Fugaku, who she intended to inform once he got home, about Naruto's Heimten, along with anyone else they could trust. Even how bad it'd be if it was discovered that Naruto had 2 Kekkei Genkai, especially if Dansum found out. Both matriarchs were sure he would make an attempt to capture Naruto, especially should he show signs of unlocking the adamantine attacking chains and adamantine sealing chains that his mother used, as well. Okay, we promise to keep it a secret, Kasan. Hanabi replied, with Hinata nodding in agreement. Why yeah, we won't tell anyone. Added Hinata, making Hitomi smile at her daughters. We won't say anything either, Kasan. Said Satsuki, not wanting anything to happen to Naruto if people found out he had 2 Kekkei Genkai. I promise too. Naruto said, with Mikoto nodding and smiling at them. Good, now then let's get going. Mikoto said before both groups exchanged goodbyes and began returning to their respective homes. With Jiraiya giggled as he looked through his telescope into a hot spring, loving the sight of the different women in the bathhouse. Oh yeah, that's it, splash her good. This is gonna amazing inspiration for my next book. Jiraiya thought, loving the inspiration he's been getting in this new town he stopped in during his journeys. Only for the Sanin's attention to be pulled away, yelping when he felt himself being hit on the head before paling as he looked around, thinking he was caught. But saw he was still alone, flinching when he was hit in the head again, realizing it was a bird. Ah. Stupid bird, go away, can't you see I'm busy? Said Jiraiya, waving his hand over his head, only to yelp when the bird pecked his hand, nearly taking his finger off in the process. Though Jiraiya stopped and was surprised when the bird jumped off his head and onto the ground, showing it was a raven with a message around its leg. Been a while since I saw one of these. Jiraiya muttered, knowing only one person who used ravens like this and would be sending one to him, making him curious on what his old student wanted to tell him. Taking the message from the raven, Jiraiya opened it up to see what Mikoto sent him, only to frown at what it said. Learning what's really been going on in Konoha concerning Naruto, as opposed to what his former teacher's been telling him. Including the real reason on why she didn't adopt Naruto after the Kikbi attack. I'm going home early, then. Thought Jiraiya, pocketing the message and gathering his things to make his way back to Konoha to meet his godson. Along with likely punch his former teacher over the head for lying to him about the kid being taken care of. But Yushiro, come on, where is he? There's got to be something here. Yushiro thought in annoyance as he looked through the forest outside of the Uchiha compound, near the Naka shrine, for any sign of the masked Uchiha. Having originally met him here before, when he gave him the information to try and get Fugaku on board with the coup. With Yushiro having come back out here, hoping that the masked Uchiha would have come back or left some kind of sign. If you're hoping for more information, I'm afraid you're wasting both of our time. Someone said, making Yushiro tense before whirling around, only to see the masked Uchiha standing in a tree with his back against it and his arms crossed. With his words making Yushiro scowl in annoyance at the reminder of Fugaku's refusal to go along with the coup. I wouldn't bother, even if you did, the information you already gave me is useless. Fugaku's refusing to go along with the coup, no matter what he's told. Yashiro retorted, with the masked Uchiha's head snapping towards him. What? The masked man demanded, not expecting to hear that. He won't get on board with the coup. He's choosing to side with Konoha just because of that damn woman Makoto getting something she wants. Said Yashiro, much to the masked man's surprise and annoyance at this turn events, along with knowing only one thing Makoto has wanted the past 5 years. I see. Well, disappointing. I suppose this was also a possibility. As well, he may not show it, Fugaku is a family man at the end of the day. Stated the masked Uchiha, given how most of the gripes Fugaku had with the village came from the fear and concern he had for how his children would be treated just for the clan they were born in. Yeah, well, that family man is willing to drag the rest of the Uchiha down with him, waiting for the day those bastards in Konoha decide to slaughter us. Said Yashiro, only to tense when the masked Uchiha jumped down from the tree, his Sharingan glowing in his mask's eyehole. Then it's simply a matter of killing Fugaku, him and anyone else that gets in our way, the masked man said, believing he can still make use of the situation. While he originally planned to eliminate the Uchiha clan entirely to avoid them becoming a threat to the Eye of the Moon clan, as well as more personal reasons with his history as the black sheep of the Uchiha clan. Now he believed, perhaps, it'd be better if some of them remained alive. Even better if he had their complete and undying loyalty. But why stop at just a faction of Uchiha? Why not place all of Konoha under the Akatsuki's control? Thought the masked Uchiha, knowing how beneficial it'd be if the Akatsuki controlled Konoha from the shadows, in addition to Kurigakure and Omegakure. Kill Fugaku and anyone who supports him. TSK, good luck getting anyone to agree to that. Yashiro retorted, knowing that while some in the Uchiha clan would want to go along with the coup, they wouldn't throw their lives away in fighting with each other. I'm sure I'll have plenty of support from our clansmen. After all, Madara Uchiha isn't someone you can say no to. Stated Madara, with Yashiro looking at him in shock and fear. Why yo Yashiro stuttered, shocked and frightened to learn that this was the Madara Uchiha and he'd just been mouthing off to him. I am, and it's time I took back everything I helped build. Madara said before he vanished in a swirling vortex. While Yashiro's mood took a complete 180 as he smirked eagerly, knowing the coup would be happening, no matter what Fugaku said. Even better, that he now had the backing of the most powerful Uchiha in history to ensure they come out on top. After separating from Naruto, Satsuki and Makoto, Hitomi and her daughters had returned to the Hika compound. Though when they returned to their home, the three stopped when they saw Natsu standing just outside. Natsu? What are you doing here? Hitomi asked neutrally while narrowing her eyes slightly, with Natsu looking at them nervous, but smiled hesitantly. Hello Hitomi-sama, Hinata-sama, Hanabi-sama. It's good to see you three again. Said Natsu with a bow, only for the three of them to continue looking at her neutrally. Sen asked you why you're here. Now tell us why you're standing outside our home. Said Hanabi, making the greenette flinch slightly. Course. Could we speak inside please? Natsu asked, not wanting to risk them being seen or overheard by anyone, knowing it'd mean trouble for her if word got back to Hiashi and the elders. With Hitomi frowning at this, having assumed that she'd try asking to become Hinata's and Hanabi's caretaker, again. But now, hearing Natsu want to speak with them inside meant that it's likely something else, something important with how nervous she looked. Fine. Hitomi said, stepping forward and opening the door, allowing Natsu inside before she and her daughters entered as well. Girls, why don't you go get ready for bed while I speak with Natsu, then get dinner ready. Said Hitomi while smiling at her daughters, the twins looking between their mother and Natsu for a few moments before nodding as they went back to their room. Once they were out of sight and making sure they weren't staying close enough to try and overhear what was said, Hitomi turned back towards Natsu with a neutral expression. Alright, talk. Hitomi stated, crossing her arms under her, waiting to see what the Hika maid had to say. Alright. Early today, Hiashi-sama had been called into a meeting with the Hika elders to discuss his performance in your duel. As well as who the clan heir is meant to be, now that you have custody of Hinata-sama and Hanabi-sama, with all of them believing that you won't even allow them to be in the same room as either of them. Explained Natsu, with Hitomi looking at her with a raised brow. They'd be right in that belief. I take it, they plan to have Hiashi marry someone else. If so, I'll be sure to pass my condolences to the unfortunate bride. Said Hitomi, only for Natsu to shake her head. They actually aren't having Hiashi-sama remarry, as there are no suitable candidates within the clan. Instead they're using a rarely known method to decide the clan heir, should the clan head's own children be unable to take the title. Instead, they'll be looking within the branch family for close relatives of Hiashi-sama and have chosen Niji due to being his nephew and the closest thing to a biological son, with how he and his Ashi were identical twins. They intend to remove his cage bird seal and elevate him to the main house. Natsu revealed, causing the perplexed eyes to widen slightly before frowning in concern. They're choosing Niji as clan heir? They do understand how dangerous that is, right? Questioned Hitomi, wondering if the elders were desperate enough for an heir, they'd ignore Niji's growing hatred of the main house. They are aware, however, it seems Hiashi-sama is in possession of a letter that his brother had written for Niji before his death. The elders hope the letter will be enough to direct Niji's hatred away from the main house. But I was worried, he may still hold Hinata-sama and Hanabi-sama responsible for his father's death. So I came to inform you, so that you and your daughters would be prepared, Hitomi-sama. Said Natsu as Hitomi's concern grew from learning this. Aware of the letter that Hisashi had left for Niji, knowing Hiashi intended to give it to him when the time was right. Given how with his current hatred for the main house and belief in fate, Niji may not believe his father wrote it and that it's merely a tool they're using against him. Which the elders now intended to do by using it to try to turn his hatred away from the main house. But she's right, there's no guarantee it'll turn away his hatred for Hinata and Hanabi. Hitomi thought, concerned at the chance Niji may actually try something in the belief that he's getting justice for his father. Thank you for telling me this, Natsu. It means a lot you came to inform us of this decision, despite the risk that'd come if you were discovered. Hitomi said, nodding in thanks to the greenette, making Natsu smile happily at her words, only for it to be wiped away at her next words. However, well, I'm grateful, it'll take more than this for you to regain my trust. Added Hitomi, returning to her neutral expression, with Natsu looking down sadly before looking up. What would I have to do to regain your trust, Hitomi-sama? Natsu asked, hopefully, willing to do anything to regain her trust and hopefully her position as Hinata's and Hanabi's caretaker. Tell me, why exactly did I remove you as my daughter's caretaker in the first place? Questioned Hitomi, confusing the greenette for a moment, only to flinch in realization. For setting a bad example by leaving the child alone to be attacked. Said Natsu, flinching again when Hitomi walked up to her. His name is Naruto, remember it and use it when speaking of him and to him. Hitomi said, Natsu's eyes widening at her words. SSP speaking, T22H hi him. Natsu asked, with Hitomi merely nodding in response. Yes. If you truly wish to regain my trust and for me to consider giving you back your former position, then you'll need to apologize and make peace with Naruto. And it must be genuine and heartfelt as well, not giving a hollow one simply to get back into our good graces. Said Hitomi, willing to give Natsu one chance to prove herself. Even, despite her anger towards her, Hitomi knew it'd be good if she had at least one other person she could trust in the Haika clan to look after her daughters. Knowing she couldn't watch after them every second of the day. And Natsu was her best option, with how she genuinely cared about and adored her daughters, rather than just seeing it as her duty to look after them. I understand, Hitomi-sama. Natsu said with a conflicted look on her face, as while she did wish to regain Hitomi's trust, she wasn't sure if she'd be able to make peace with or apologize to Naruto. I hope you do, because the fact you genuinely care about my daughters, as well as the fact that you informed us of the elders' decision, is the only reason I'm giving you another chance. If it was anyone else, I wouldn't be wasting my time making the offer. So, try not to disappoint me, again. Said Hitomi before heading towards the kitchen to get started on dinner while Natsu could only nod, still feeling conflicted. One more thing, Naruto's recently been adopted by my friend, Mikoto. So if, or when, you decide to approach him, you'll be able to find him at the Uchiha compound. Hitomi added, with the Haika maid simply nodding again before taking her leave.